Okay, I think we'll go ahead and get started. Similar to yesterday, there's a lot of sort of housekeeping stuff to go through before we get into the real heart of everything. So, people that are still joining won't miss too much. So good morning, good afternoon, wherever you're located. Thank you so much for being back with us today, or with us if you were unable to be with us yesterday. Um, this is day 2 of our 2-day Tribal Brownfields Grant Management Training. I am Jennifer Clancy, and I'm with the Kansas State University Center for Hazardous Substance Research, and I co-lead the Tribal Technical Assistance to Brownfields program with my dear old friend, Orel Salters, who is here with us today, and you'll be hearing from him later. I'm also joined by other members of the Tribal Tab team, including Michaela Shirley and Cuauhtemoc Landeros, who are both from Kansas State University, and Bailey Richards, who is from the Alaska Native Tribal Health Consortium. We are all just really, really excited and thrilled to have you back with us today. And we had a great day yesterday. We have a equally fantastic day today. And we're really excited to share all of this with you. So, before we get started, if it sounds like you've heard this before, it's because you did. You heard all of this yesterday. But before we get going, I do have these little technical kind of housekeeping things that I need to point out and share with everyone. So if you happen to have any technical difficulties with your connection throughout this event, please call 785-532-0783 or email chsr@ksu.edu, and someone should be able to help you out. We are recording this event. We recorded yesterday's, we're recording today. And the full recording from both days, along with all of the presentation slides and any of the resources that have been shared, are going to be available on the webpage where you registered for this event. Resources will be up pretty quickly if they aren't already. The recordings will be up probably by next week. And the link for that webpage has been shared in the chat box for you, and we will share it continuously throughout the day. And let's see here. All right, so our little reminders to make sure everybody has a good time today. All of the participants should be muted, but we just want to make sure, if you don't mind, just checking to make sure that you are muted throughout the event. We've automatically muted people, but just kind of double check and make sure that you're muted. If you are using your phone for the audio, please make sure that your computer audio is also muted in addition to your phone audio. This just reduces any chances of static or feedback that all of us might hear as a result of that. And also, please make sure that your video remains off during the presentations. And to make sure that we're able to verify your attendance, please change your participant name to match the name that you use for registration. And you can do this by clicking on the participants icon in the Zoom toolbar. And when the list of participants comes up, please locate yourself, click on the More button, and then select Rename. And then at that point, a new box is going to pop up and it's going to ask you to enter a new screen name. At that point, put in, whatever name you used when you registered for this event. We really, really, really would like this to be as interactive as possible. So we do encourage you to ask questions throughout the event today. If you have questions while people are speaking, please use the chat feature that's located in the Zoom toolbar. And a little bit about this, we will stop at the end of every speaker and have an opportunity for questions at that point. We will read out loud the questions that come in via the chat. Also, at that point, if you want to unmute yourself to ask your questions instead of typing them in the chat, please feel free to do that. If it gets out of control and people start talking over each other, I might change the rules and mute everybody again, but we really do want this to feel like we are in a room together as opposed to, scattered all over the country. So we do want people to have the opportunity to actually use their voices and speak, to ask their questions and make comments and have discussion and all of that. And we will, at the end of the day, have an open dialogue. So we definitely encourage people to unmute and come on camera at that point to engage in that conversation. Also, as a note, if you are a little bit more reserved and you don't want to share your questions publicly, please know that you can send them in chat just directly to me. No one else will see them, and then I can read them out anonymously, and we can still get all of your questions answered for you. Okay, so that's what I'm going to say about that. If you don't mind, I see Mary Rose already got us started here. This is great. If you wouldn't mind, please put your name and your organization in the chat, and that just kind of lets us get to know each other and who all's here, and it'd be really really wonderful. Okay, let's see here. Moving on. I know we went through this yesterday, but sometimes you have to hear things many times. So if you are not familiar with the Tribal Technical Assistance to Brownfields program, or Tribal TAB, or even if you are, here's an overview of who we are. So Tribal TAB is one of the many TAB providers that's funded by EPA. Amy Jean talked, a lot about the various TAB providers and their functions yesterday. So Tribal TAB is one of those. We are one of the national kind of specialized TAB providers, and our focus is federally recognized tribes and Alaska Native villages. And so Tribal TAB is a collaborative partnership between Kansas State University, the Institute for Tribal Environmental Professionals, or ITEP, and the Alaska Native Tribal Health Consortium, or ANTHC. And our mission is to support Indigenous communities in protecting and restoring sacred lands through the reuse, restoration, and redevelopment of brownfield sites. We do provide free technical assistance to all federally recognized tribes, Alaska Native villages, and other tribal entities. And, on the right side of the screen, you can see there's a very general list of some of the ways that we may be able to assist you, your brownfields program, and your community. But we can do so much more than what is listed here. Sometimes we don't even know what we can do until the questions come at us, and we think through things together and go, okay, yes, we can do this. So we always encourage people to reach out to us, which you can do by emailing us at tribal-tab@ksu.edu. And then we can have a discussion about kind of where you are, where you're trying to go, and then together we can kind of co-create a path forward that will address your specific community needs, your goals, your priorities, and including any cultures and traditions that you would also like to have pulled into the technical assistance. Okay. Oops. Sorry about that. My clicker got out of control. Okay, so after all of that, let's take a look at how we're going to spend our time together today. So this is our just super quick overview of day 2. As you may remember, yesterday we focused on kind of the higher level, like foundations of brownfields grant management. We heard about different brownfields grant types, understanding your cooperative agreement, budget management and amendments, and staying on track with your work plan. So today we're going to shift focus just a little bit, and we're going to talk about reporting, internal management systems, and then just kind of general grant readiness. So we will start by learning about reporting best practices with Amy Jean McEwen from US EPA Region 1 and Jen Satchel from the Bay Mills Indian Community. Then Dr. Cynthia Annette from Tribal TAB, Jason White and Sheila Sevenstar from Cherokee Nation, and Sarah Daskowitz from the Copper River Native Association will share ideas and approaches for building strong internal systems. And finally, Aurel Salters, who's the co-director of Tribal TAB, will lead us all through reflection and dialogue and peer exchange on grant readiness. And then before we leave, we will wrap things up with further discussion any more questions you may have. And very important to us, we will be sharing with you an event evaluation. These evaluations are really, really critical to us. They help us, better understand what you're learning, what you're not learning, what we're doing well, what we could improve on, what else you'd like to hear from us. And then this also helps us make the case to EPA that the work we're doing is good and beneficial and powerful, and that they should continue to fund us. So please do, our evaluations are super quick. So please do take the time when we put that information out there to complete an evaluation for us. And then we will sign off. We will say goodbye, and we will all go about our very great and wonderful and important work. So, Amy Jean, before I get you started, I haven't been keeping an eye on the chat. I've just been seeing a lot of stuff coming in, lots of introductions. I want to make sure that I didn't miss any questions. If there was anything that came in that we needed to touch on real quick.
No question yet, Jen.
Great.
Just introductions.
Thank you so much, Hannah. Okay, Amy Jean, you're up. Amy Jean and Jen Satchel. Sorry, both of you.
All righty. So you guys get a dynamic duo today. And both Jen and I attended yesterday and listened to a lot of discussions that our slides might cover. So, if there's parts of my slide that say things that I don't cover, it's because we really covered a lot of it yesterday. So I'm not going to repeat myself. But there'll be things that we'll add. So I'll introduce myself. I'm Amy Jean McEwen. I'm the tribal lead for Region 1, which is New England. So it's Maine, New Hampshire, Vermont, Connecticut, Rhode Island. I feel like there's 6 states. I've forgotten one. Boy, I shouldn't have listed that. 6 states, and 3 of our 10 tribes have 128A funding. Maybe I mentioned Vermont. I don't know. I'm losing it. So this is called Reporting Best Practices. And as Jennifer Clancy mentioned, all of the presentations are uploaded and you can look at these later at your leisure. All right. So next slide, please, Hannah. So this is something that is important, that we all work together. And these are, we use the word grant and cooperative agreement, but the funding that we give to the tribes are really called cooperative agreements. They're not the same as grants. And it's because the project officer is significantly and substantially involved in the work with you. So this whole process takes teamwork. And on the team for EPA, you have the project officer. You have a grant specialist, which is identified in your cooperative agreement. And there's somebody, it's a different person for every region, which is the financial specialist from Research Triangle Park. And you'll see random emails from them. They usually CC the project officer, but that's who that person is. And then on the grantee side, we have who's ever managing the grant, your authorized representative. That's the person that enters data into grants.gov and might do drawdowns. Well, the financial person is doing the drawdowns, accounting, and then your qualified environmental professional. So it is a team that works together to ensure the successful work for all of these grants. So next slide. And I'm just going to do a quick thing about reporting. We heard yesterday, people were asking, are their reports semi-annual? Are they quarterly? And it is really based on what your EPA project officer puts in your terms and conditions. Some of them are semi-annual, some of them are quarterly. And with the 128A program, we still don't have the template in the acre system yet. That's still out there to be done. That's the next thing that they're going to be working on. And once that occurs, we're not sure if that's then going to make everybody have to do it quarterly, like a regular 104K competitive grant is. They're done quarterly. But that's something that's coming forward, this whole idea of being, of the reporting being done through acres. And then PALs, Jen will talk about that. So next slide. Okay. So Jen, this is my slide, right? Yes, this is me. So the 104K grants, which are the competitive ones, they require quarterly reporting for acres. There's the link to acres. There's the thing about whether the 128A is either quarterly or semi-annual. And yeah, and I already mentioned that we're working on a quarterly report template for the 128A recipients. Next slide, please. And now I'm going to transfer over to Jen Satchel, and you can introduce yourself and start on your part.
All right, thank you. I'm Jen Satchel. I'm with Bay Mills Indian Community. I'm an environmental coordinator here, and I've worked for the tribe almost 5 years now. I just would like to say that this has been a great webinar so far, and I wish I had something like this when I started because it was really confusing at first. So a lot of really wonderful information was provided yesterday. Hopefully you'll glean some more good information today. As Mary Jean noted, a lot of what we were going to talk about today was already referenced yesterday. Some of this might be a little repetitive, but doesn't hurt to hear it twice, maybe just to solidify it in your brains. Bay Mills Indian Community has several Brownfields grants. So we have the CERCLA 128A annual appropriation, we have the 128A IIJA funding, and we have two different cleanup grants. So just to give you an idea of how much reporting we do here is quite a bit, and I'll kind of go into some of the nuances of how I report those different grants and in the different ways that you need to do that. But when it comes to all this reporting that Amy Jean just listed, we do it all, quarterly, semi-annual, acres, and PALs. Yesterday, a lot of people said, read your terms and conditions, and that is the best advice. And just, I screwed up a lot in the beginning. I learned from making mistakes. I didn't read terms and conditions carefully. Probably would have saved my project manager a lot of headaches if I had been a little better about that. And that was Rosita, who spoke yesterday, and she is amazing and helped me launch my Brownfields work. And many thanks to her. She's a great resource. But yeah, Rosita was probably pulling her hair out just a little bit that first year. So you're getting lots of information to kind of help with that through this webinar. Terms and conditions are really important. There is no one template to use for reporting. It's kind of whatever you want to make. I will share a template at the end that was provided to me by Region 5. But as long as you are reporting what is required in your terms and conditions, then you've met what you need to do. Make sure that you save your work as you go throughout the months, so to make reporting easier for you. And Richard shared yesterday some forms and some really great advice, and I'm definitely going to go on the website and look at Richard's forms because I have not mastered this myself either. And between the 4 grants here, I also manage 8 other grants under GAP and different things. So reporting is really kind of a bear, and the more organized you are, the faster it will be for you. So if you weren't here yesterday, I definitely recommend listening to the recording so you can hear what Richard shared yesterday about how to keep it all organized, because that will help you a lot when it comes to reporting. Others that I know of, they use things like Microsoft Power BI, and just other forms or internal processes that they have developed themselves that work for them. Another thing I just want to mention is that because we have 4 different grants, I report all of my time in 128A annual appropriation, but then I'm reporting the work that we do under all the different grants. So the 2 different cleanup grants, the work for each one of those and all the deliverables. We use the 128A bill funding or IIJA funding for a lot of site-specific work and training and things like that. So it feels like I report a lot of things twice, but I am report in the different grants or reports that I am submitting. But in one, I am submitting all my time and the time that I spend on all these different projects. And then the other, it's the work, the site-specific work and all the other things that we're doing in those other grants. I definitely recommend that you keep hard copies of everything. It's recommended that you have a binder. I'll talk a little bit more about that binder later on in the presentation, but you definitely want to keep a binder and a digital copy of all the different things that you're doing, your request for proposals, contract agreements, all the procurement stuff, important communications that happen between you and your project officer where they might agree to something or tell you maybe you shouldn't do something or offer suggestions. Um, just make sure you keep a really good record of everything that you do so that if anything's ever questioned, then you have a way to pull that up and just have the data to back things up. Up here on the screen is my semi-annual progress report. So it's not beautiful. It's sort of like data dumped in there under different headings, but it gets the job done. Others I know will submit like pictures and different documents, and usually I submit my reports, and then if some things your project manager is going to want to see, like a cleanup plan or a community engagement plan and things like that. So if they want to see more documentation, you can always send that later. Okay, next slide, please. Acres. So acres is both nice and challenging at the same time. It's nice to not have to type things into a document. It's got, just boxes that you're filling out. And in acres, you report any cleanup work that you do or site specific work. Whenever you have a property that I can't remember the name right now, like it's been accepted by EPA for you to work on, you want to put that in there. And then if you have any of those MARC grants, I think pretty much all of those you report in acres. So acres is the assessment, cleanup, and redevelopment exchange system. And you use it to enter your property information in there and also for reporting. There is online training for it. And so if you have a MARC grant, a lot of times there's specific training for one of those grants, like there's specific acres training for cleanup grants. But the training is held frequently, and there's also recordings of it online. So that's helpful because not everything in acres is very just intuitive and you're like, and you know what to do. It's some of it you kind of gotta, it's helpful to attend the training for sure. Your EPA project officer is going to use acres to review and approve your accomplishments. If you are working with a qualified environmental professional, your contractor, they can also access it and enter data in there. I don't have mine do that. I do all that, but that is something that you can do. And it's basically the Brownfields program system of record. So it is used to analyze data across all the cooperative agreements to demonstrate and improve the success of a Brownfields program. If Congress has any inquiries about how the Brownfields program is doing, that information is pulled from acres. It tracks program goals and accomplishments. It's used to create communication and outreach materials. So when I was at the Brownfields conference in Chicago this past summer, I could tell that some of the posters were made using data from acres. So it's helpful for things like that. It also helps with developing the programmatic capability score. And it is noted that you should update your data in acres once you have something to put in there. I personally do it every quarter. So, but you should get into a good practice of regularly getting into acres and updating it just so you don't forget something. And it's good to have good data in there because that helps support our programs and the work that we do and the work that EPA does. And the better that we're doing, maybe we'll get more funding. I don't know, but it's good to have good data. You'd want to, whenever you submit an eligibility determination, and that's the words I couldn't remember earlier, to your project manager, then you need to go into acres and enter that in there. It also provides geographic information about your sites and provides assessment activities that you're doing and the funding that you're doing to clean that up. So you can also include things like maybe your tribe's general fund is supporting some aspects of that work. Well, that's in there and that's important information to know too. It also talks about the type of contaminants and the media that is affected, the cleanup activities and the funding and what you're doing. Any redevelopment activities can be noted in there, leveraging information and property history. So there's quite a bit of information that can go into acres, which is useful in a variety of different ways. Next slide, please. PALS. PALS is also filled out in acres. So PALS is your program activity levels. You fill this out one time a year, and it's kind of like a recap of your whole year. It's not difficult if you've been keeping track of what you've been doing all year. It's 9 questions, and it's all quantitative data. Things that are like how many sites were added to your public record, how many acres was work completed on this year. And it supplements your reports. So whereas your reports are talking, you're listing out all the different types of things that you do, PALS is sort of like this succinct compilation of all this work. And you can start entering information into PALS, I think October 1st, and usually the deadline is mid-December, I believe. So it is something you want to make sure that you get in there. And this is in your cooperative agreement. And this is one of those things that I didn't do my first year because I didn't read my cooperative agreement very good. So Rosita had to tell me to go fill out PALS. Okay, we are going to move on. And I think Amy Jean is next. So next slide, please.
All right. And thank you. And that was a great discussion about acres. And one thing that's really cool about acres is, let's say Jen works on a site, a school site, and she funds it with, $20,000. And then the state that she lives in, their environmental program, they spend money on the site for 30,000. That all is in one entry in PALS. So if you were to pull up and see how much money did EPA spend on that one site, any entity that spent any funding, it could be the state, the tribe, there could be regional council of government or a planning commission, or maybe the town that the site is located in, that's all listed there in one spot. And we really do pull information out of acres all the time and use it. So acres is really important, and there is a lot of training. So as I said earlier, there was lots of discussions on work plan yesterday, which was great. So I'm just going to touch on some things about, because this section is about reporting. And when you trying to think of a template for your report, you want to go back to your work plan. And what did you say in your work plan that you were going to do? Because that is what is going to drive how you set up your reporting. And so here's an example of here's an example of budget detail right out of your work plan. And you need to make sure that your budget detail matches in your report with your original work plan. And we suggest you use the same categories and format. So here they have, task 1, site selection, community outreach, phase 2s, reuse planning, agreement oversight, and they have the budget. That's what we're looking for. This is a $1.3 million community-wide assessment grant that the Passamaquoddy tribe in Zeebayig has. So this is actually this is a real example of a budget table right out of a tribal work plan for a CWAG Street grant. So they have it broken down by 4 tasks. So we expect you in your reporting to use all the same 4 tasks with the same headings and the same dollar amount. That's where you start with the original dollar amounts that you said to EPA that you were going to use. So that's something that we're looking for, the format and the categories. Next slide, please. Work plan tasks. So in your work plan, you have all of these, everybody has to list what they're going to do, what are the outputs, and the dates that they're going to do it. So this is another thing that you can use. What are the tasks that you said you're going to work on? Put them in your report and document that you did those. So like here's one, holding kickoff meeting with the Brownfields QEP to establish the process, have a public meeting, notes. When did they think they were going to do that? Well, Dale wrote down November 2023. Now, this is from his work plan. Dale could take this and use this and actually fill out the actual accomplishment dates, which if you were to get a grant extension, you need to update this part of your work plan, all the tasks, and actually add those dates. So you go in, you fill out that right-hand side, and this can be used as a guide to help you. What am I going to talk about in my report? Oh, my work plan tasks. So, these match, and this is where we suggest you start for your work plan, for your reporting template with the work plan. Next slide, please. Oh, so common issues. There's a lot of issues that that everybody seems to have. And I'm going to go over a lot of these. So we'll jump right in. We had a question about indirect rate yesterday. We're going to talk about indirect rate. And you may say, well, what is an indirect rate and what are indirect costs? So indirect costs are those costs incurred by an organization for common or joint objectives, and that cannot be readily identified with a particular final cost objective, project, or program, but are nevertheless necessary to the general operation or its activities. So it is usually a percent. And what happens is EPA's grant period of performance starts, let's just pretend, 10/1/2025. The indirect rate is on a calendar year. So the indirect rate, you put your paperwork in with an indirect rate of 35%, and you're only going to have that for October, November, December. Come January, the tribe is going to submit and get a new indirect rate, and maybe it went up to 40%. Well, you were only on 35%. So you're like, wait a minute, all of a sudden I'm spending money at a faster rate than I thought. It's because of this, that the indirect rate is yearly and the grant period of performance is on the fiscal year, which starts 10/1. So the two don't match. So there's always a disconnect with that. EPA project officers understand that. Your who you work with is allowed to just call you up and say, well, the indirect rate it usually goes up. It went up. So we have to factor that in and you just have to adjust. Everybody knows that, but that's why there's a difference. The tribes come in every single year and request a new indirect rate. So, and that's the fiscal start date. Yeah. So, and Jen is next on the on your terms and agreements. Jen, you want to talk about that?
Sure, which is a lot of what we've already talked about, which is just make sure that you read those when you get them and check in with them frequently. I usually check in with them quarterly when I am doing my reporting, just to make sure that I am crossing all the T's and dotting all the I's when it comes to the terms and conditions. You're going to want to go over the terms and conditions with your project officer if you have any questions at all. And whenever you get a new agreement or you do an amendment, you want to look at your terms and conditions again because their changes can happen. I'm going to move on to audit proof your files. So everybody, I think, is pretty nervous about getting audited. At least I am really nervous about getting audited. And so what we do at Bay Mills is we sort of have like a triple process. And we have a grant binder, which is full of hard copies of everything. Like I got the 5-inch binders for my cleanup plans or for my cleanup grants. And I also have a digital folder for all of my grants too. So it's saved in a couple of different places. You're supposed to hang on to your files for 3 years from the time of your last um, report submission. So you want to hang on to those for a while and then get rid of them. Because if it's 4 years and you don't have them anymore and somebody wants to audit them, well, they're gone. So get rid of them after 3 years. And every time you do reporting, you should update all these things. So that's what I do. And it's quite a process. And I'll be honest, like this summer was really, really busy for me because everything was happening all this summer and I did not update my binder. So this October is going to be really busy with a lot of binder updating because I didn't do it in the last quarter. You're going to want to keep all of your agreements, your travel documents, your receipts, general ledgers, any important communications. Um, I stole some slides from Amy Jean, and so I'm just going to go through some of that she has suggested in past presentations. So Amy Jean, feel free to jump in here. But she had recommended an official grant project file with part 1 an application, part 2 has correspondence, part 3 is your assistance agreement, part 4 is other correspondence that's particular to during your grant period as opposed to during your application period. And part 5, financial information. And part 6, your monitoring and technical and quarterly reports. So it's good to just have a really solid record of everything that you've done as you've been working through your different projects. There's also just some things that are common audit findings, and I'll go through some of these. One is untimely report submissions. There have been times at Bay Mills, we went through a process of switching over our accounting software, and it happened right during reporting season. And so I knew that I was going to be late because I couldn't get the budget information for my report in time. So I just notified my project manager. I explained the reason, and that was okay. I mean, you shouldn't do that all the time, but if there's going to be an issue, you should definitely talk to your project manager with EPA. Otherwise, definitely try to get those reports in sooner rather than later. Don't wait till the last minute because there's a lot of work to do to get those all put together. Lack of documentation. So definitely document everything, save everything, have your hard copies, have your digital copies. Inadequate time and effort reports. Inadequate reports like federal financial reports are another issue. At Bay Mills, I don't submit those. Our grants management department submits those. So I don't have a lot of, I don't have much experience with them, but I know Amy Jean's going to talk about federal financial reports later on. So she'll have good info for you there. Commingling of funds, which when you're managing 4 different grants, that can become an issue. So you definitely got to make sure that you are tracking what you're spending where. Excess cash on hand, that is, you haven't spent all your grant dollars. So be really mindful of keeping track of your expenditures, making sure that the drawdowns are happening on a regular basis. That's really important, especially now under this particular administration. They want to see that you're getting work done. Make sure that you don't have any unallowable costs in there, and those are addressed in your terms and conditions. Inappropriate changes, conflicts of interest, and then I just want to talk about one thing that I didn't understand in the beginning, but I heard is called audit bait, which is if you are working on a project and you are maybe working with the same contractor and there's several invoices with the same contractor and it ends up going over $10,000, you should have had a contract with that contractor. And because you've sort of fallen out of the procurement process policy. So that's just one thing to keep track of is how much money are you spending with a particular contractor? Because once you go over a certain threshold, whether it's EPA's procurement policy or maybe your tribe specific policy, you want to make sure that you have done the correct, followed the correct procurement process. I hope that makes sense. If not, we can try to explain a little better. Another thing I just recommend is to talk with your project manager frequently. As soon as I started with Rosita, she said, hey, we should meet every month. And I said, yes, that sounds great. And then Rosita moved on and I had a new project manager. And the first thing I said to her is, can we have monthly meetings, please? And she said, sure. So it's really helpful to have a monthly meeting. Maybe you only need to talk for 5 minutes to check in, or maybe you don't need it and you can cancel that meeting, but it's nice to have that on your schedule. And what I do is I just keep a track of my questions throughout the month and a certain document that I've got questions for Ashley, and then I have those and we'll talk over things. So that's really helpful for me to make sure that I'm doing what I'm supposed to do and she knows what's going on and everything is above board and going well. Okay, next slide. And I think we're back to Amy Jean.
All righty. And thank you. That is key to do the list and keep a list of the questions, because the more the EPA project officer knows what the tribe is working on, the better they are able to justify the request that comes in December for the next round of the 128A funding. So thank you. So I had already read the definition of indirect cost rate, and there's a link to it. There's lots of discussion on this. So we can just move forward, please, Hannah, on this slide. All right. Modified direct total cost. It means so the indirect rate is calculated based on your modified direct total cost. And what is the modified direct total cost? It is all direct salaries and wages, applicable fringe benefits, materials and supplies, services and travel, and up to the first 50,000 of each subaward. So other items may only be excluded when necessary to avoid a serious inequity in the distribution of indirect costs and with the approval of the cognizant agency for indirect costs. So it's kind of a lengthy discussion. It excludes equipment, capital expenditures, charges for patient care, rental costs, tuition remission, scholarships and fellowships, participant support costs, and the portion of each subaward in excess of 50,000. So you would want to work with your finance department and the EPA project officer to ensure that you're doing the correct calculation and using the correct indirect rate, since it changes every year. So you want to make sure that they're charging it correctly too. So your grant doesn't get hit with the charges on line items that isn't part of the modified total direct costs. Next slide, please. So there's this lovely title called de minimis. So it's the lowest amount of the indirect rate that the tribes can use. It used to be 10%. It's now 15% of the modified total direct costs. And it's used when you don't have an approved indirect cost rate. You're working on it. The cognizant agent hasn't signed off on it. It's not approved. So you go back to this de minimis rate. And, it can be a lot of loss of funding for the tribe if they normally have an indirect rate of 40% and you can only use the 15% rate. So de minimis has gone up from 10 to 15, but it's still usually lower than what the tribes have. Next slide, please. This is a copy of a document. It gets approved. EPA is not always the agency that is the cognizant agency. It's usually the cognizant agency is the one that's giving the tribe the most amount of money. So usually EPA Brownfields is not the one giving the tribe the most amount of money. It's usually BIA. So they would be doing, BIA would be the cognizant agency. They would sign off on it. They would give it to EPA. There wouldn't be two approvals for this. It would be just with it would just be with whatever agency is considered the cognizant. So there's not two competing documents for this. Next slide, please. Oh, so this year, there's a new requirement for ASAP reimbursements. There was Executive Order 14222 implementing the President's Department of Government Efficiency Cost-Effective Initiative. And it requires that everybody that is getting reimbursed and using the ASAP system, that you have to complete a brief written justification in order to receive reimbursement. And it's less than 300 characters. So it's not that long. And EPA reminds everybody that all payment requests must be for incurred eligible and allowable costs and activities according to the terms and conditions of the grant award. Next slide, please. So the office OGD sent out an ASAP justification template and said, the drawdown is for immediate cash needs. So you can't draw $20,000 out and put it in the bank and sit on it. It has to be, we have a bill from our QEP for $20,000 and you're going to get it out within 5 days. So the drawdown is for immediate cash needs in carrying out the approved project as required by 2 CFR 200.305. And then you're going to say the funds will be used for costs consistent with the approved budget and the terms and conditions of the award and are necessary for, and then you're going to talk about what did you pay? Did you pay for salary? Did you pay QEP? Did you buy a piece of equipment? What's your justification? All right, next slide, please. So invoices, you have to have backup for why you're doing drawdowns. You need to maintain the invoices. You need to keep a record of them. You need to have backup for why you're drawing down 20, 30,000. You need to have documentation on personnel costs. You need to maintain that. And the invoice or documentation and the amount of the payment request for each drawdown must match. Next slide, please. And financial awareness begins with good record keeping. Grantees are responsible for maintaining all records for the grant. So it's not good enough that you emailed us the phase 1 environmental site assessment. You have to have the copy of it. And as Jen pointed out earlier, the records must be maintained for 3 years after you receive the grants office's closure letter. So when the period of performance ends and you submit your final federal financial form and your final report, and the project officer says we recommend closing out this grant, then the grants office actually closes it out and sends you notification. So the date is 3 years from then that you need to keep those records. Next slide, please, Hannah. And we in Region 1 decided that, and I have to turn my head so I can read this, but you will all have this presentation, but we came up with some terminology that you can use for your ASAP justification. What could you say? And we have things like personnel. Here's one: personnel costs for project management and cooperative agreement oversight per the agency approved work plan and budget detail and is consistent with federal policies. So we came up with categories and wording that you could use for your ASAP justification. You know, like here's one, contractual costs for cleanup planning per the agency approved work plan and budget. You know, so we gave you some words and is consistent with federal policy. So we added the buzzwords. So feel free to use this if you'd like. It's just more information than what was sent out with the initial idea of what to put for your ASAP justification. We came up with these to help all of our grantees in Region 1. Next slide, please. Oh, and this is another problem. So you're a grantee and you're trying to draw down some money, and what you call yourselves does not match the name that is in sam.gov. And this is occurring right now with one of my tribes. They have a grant that they should be getting the funding for right now, and they can't get the funding. We can't load it into the system because the name that they claim and sam.gov don't match. So we can't upload any funds. So the legal name has to match, the SF424 legal name must match what is in sam.gov. And the address must match the mailing address. We know that you may be located in a building and it's a different address, but it's the mailing address that you have in sam.gov must match. And you also need to make sure that your sam.gov account does not expire during the period of performance of your grant. So we are going through this whole doing business as issue right now, and one of the tribes is being held up getting funding. And it's something that RTP has sent the email about, and there's another grantee. There's two of my grantees that are having this issue. So we're just informing you that it's a problem. So there we go on that. Next slide, please. And this is, we're going back to Jen. This is your part, right? Final technical reports. Okay, go back to Jen for this.
All right. So final technical reports are really similar to your semi-annual and quarterly reports, except for that they're just talking about the entire period of your cooperative agreement. So it's just best to go through all of your prior reports and cut and paste and drop that all into your final technical report. There may be some documents that your project manager is going to want you to send along. Amy Jean had mentioned things like phase ones or cleanup plans or things like that. May want to go with those, maybe some pictures. But this is your final communication regarding all the work that you've accomplished over the period of your cooperative agreement, whether it's a year or 3 years or whatever. And that's really the basis of it. It's just a bigger lift and a longer time frame than your other reports. And as far as Region 5 goes, we use the same template for that as we do with the other ones. So that's really all I have to say about that. And Amy Jean's going to talk a little more about some of the other final reports.
Okay, so there's another document that you need to submit, which is your SF425, which is also called the FFR, your Federal Financial Report. And you want to make sure that the amount that your finance people is stating is the amount that is the correct amount to close that out. And hopefully there's no money left on it. And that gets sent to RTP, but also your EPA project officer needs a copy of that too. So you want to send it to both of us. This is just like what one of them looks like. This is what the form is. And we used to have the MEBY-WEBY form where you were talking about if you hired minority, if you hired small disadvantaged businesses, and there was a whole document that the MEBY-WEBY form you no longer have to fill out. That is done with. So no more MEBY-WEBY. And if you're wondering, well, who do I send my SF525 to? it's in your terms and conditions. It spells out who you send it to. And the final technical report is due within 120 days after the end of the period of performance. And then that's also when the federal financial report is due at the same time. The two of those are due. And it's calendar day. So if there's a holiday, it's still a calendar day. And you know, some people might have gotten their grant extended, but a lot of you, it'd be due almost to the end of January is when it's all due. And so I think Jennifer is going to talk about a reporting template. Right, Jen?
Yes, and I do just want to stress, even though you have 120 days after the end of your performance period, if you wait till day 110, you might forget some important stuff. So I recommend trying to get it done sooner so you don't forget good stuff that you have done for your reporting. Okay, next slide, please. So this is just really quick, the reporting template that was provided to us in Region 5. It's very simple, which is great. And I showed you one of our reports from earlier. It's just this with all the tasks completed in it. So you want to have your cooperative agreement number in there and your tribe's name and the reporting period and your goals and objectives from your cooperative agreement and the things that you completed and what you're planning to do next quarter and your budget table and how much you've spent down so far. Before this came out, I think this was provided to us maybe a year or two ago. I was doing things in a Excel document, which worked out pretty good too. It was very similar to the one that Amy Jean showed earlier, where it was kind of, I just took the work plan and I added another column at the end of that and just listed in there the different tasks and deliverables that were associated with each one of those work plan tasks. And that worked out pretty good. And before that, when I very first started, I found some report online somewhere and it was terrible, but I think I used it for 2 years and it had tons of wording in it and a lot of it was really redundant and repetitive. And I used that for a while and it was unnecessary. So try to make it simple and succinct because your project manager on the other end is probably going to appreciate that too. There's a lot of different ways that you can do reporting, but make it easy for you and work well for you and your project manager. And was mentioned earlier, Richard has shared some great resources from yesterday, and so some of those are things that you could look up and use yourself too. So that's it for me.
And that's it for me. So now, Jennifer, we have questions.
Yes, we do. I just advanced back. We're not going to break yet. You don't get to go yet.
Oh, God, I'm just going to go right now.
That was awesome, y'all. You know, Jen, I know you mentioned when at the beginning of this that yesterday you kept thinking, you know, how you wished you would have had all of that information when you first started. I was thinking that over and over and over again during this part. From, you know, a million years ago when I was a grantee and reporting all the various types of reporting, just like really bogged my brain down, and the way you all touched on everything and, you know, laid it all out and gave examples, this would have been so helpful to me. So hopefully our other grantees here are feeling the same way. We have had kind of a lot of questions come in. So I hope you're all ready. The first thing, which I do believe we got this sort of straightened out via the chat, but it did bring up an interesting point that maybe we want to touch on. I think there was a little bit of confusion about what bill is, and so that's been resolved. But through that discussion, I just wanted to see if you all could touch on how you report your bill funding, whether it's, you know, a 128A bill allocation or cooperative or the competitive bill funding, you know, is it different? Is it separate? You know, how is bill reporting treated compared to just the normal 128A allocation, the normal competitive grant allocations?
I can start on that one. So with the bill also called IIJA, that is a separate cooperative agreement, so it's an entirely separate reporting process. My bill, the way it looks very similar to the annual 128A appropriation, but I'm just doing different work under the bill / IIJA 128A appropriation. So yes, it is a separate it's separate reporting, it's a separate cooperative agreement, and the bill IIJA tends to be quarterly, whereas the annual 128 appropriation is at least for us is semi-annual. And then when it comes to our cleanup grants are also bill. And I've never had a cleanup grant before, but it's until Bill came along. But that is also reported in acres. And because we have 2 cleanup grants, those are also 2 different cooperative agreements. So that's also reporting individually for each of those 2. So I'm reporting on 4 different cooperative agreements.
Goodness gracious.
I hope that makes sense. Please let me know if you need more clarification.
Yeah, and I do want to point out, Terry, thankfully, put this in the chat. We get so accustomed to our acronyms. If you are not familiar or don't remember, when we're talking about bill, it's bipartisan infrastructure law, which is now known as the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, or IIJA. When you hear bill or IIJA, that's what we're talking about. It's this sort of you know, a law that was passed during the previous administration that allocated a tremendous amount of money for brownfields that we've all been really fortunate beneficiaries of for the last several years. And this is the last year of that funding. So if you have not ever gone after a competitive grant, I would suggest this year. We talked about that some yesterday. We don't need to go into that again. Amy Jean, was there anything you wanted to add on this topic before we move into questions?
That is correct, that your reporting is based on each individual pot of funding, and the bill funding is in a whole separate, like the tribe in our region has bill funding, it's a whole separate grant from their annual allocation. And then if you had a PPG, bill funding could not go into a PPG because it's competitive funding. So you would report your work in your PPG, which has different terms and conditions. That's a total another process. So that has its own reporting requirements. And then if you got billed, that would be reported separately. That's a whole nother grant. So it's by grant number you are reporting for, individually by grant number.
Great. Thank you. So Joey, if you have, you know, more questions about that, we can all get together and talk about that. Okay, next question is about PALs. Did they change the question about how many sites have been enrolled in your program? That's a legal word describing a process, and we don't all have an enrollment process.
So I am not sure, Richard, if we changed that. I don't know. And I don't know if Terry or Christina Lottie in headquarters has the answer. We reviewed the guidelines that, you know, for the 128A allocation and bill request that's coming, you know, due like middle December. And I didn't look and see at the PALS form. So I don't know if we updated the PALS form to show that, but I do know what you're talking about. I don't know if anybody else has a thought on that. I am not sure on that.
I think this is Terry. Hi, Amy Jean. Let me look it up. I know there was some questions about that language because the enrollment process, so I felt like it was tweaked, but I can't remember exactly because we went, I think there were a couple of different revisions or something. So I'll go look at the form and then report back in the chat.
Oh,
that
thank
works.
you.
Okay.
Yay. Yeah, I've got too many screens, so I can't look it up, but I know we have a new, it's been produced, but I don't remember what it said.
Thanks, Terry. I do want to quickly point out, there's a lot happening in the chat. In case you missed it, Hannah, who shows up as K-State tab / CHSR, she shared in the chat the slides that the Acres team presented for us at a workshop in Region 7 and 8 last week. So those slides are in there for anyone that is interested in that directly from the Acres team. And then I also shared the link to the Acres training tips and tools websites where I don't remember if it was Amy Jean or Jen or both of them talked about the recorded trainings, the Acres recorded trainings. That's the link where those can be found. So if you need some Acres help, we have some things in the chat for you. Also, reach out to us, reach out to your project manager, and we can further assist you with that. Okay, moving on. Next question. What if the budget was amended and differs from the original work plan?
Oh, so what usually happens with that, and you learned yesterday, is you would say we had to amend I just got an email yesterday from my grantee saying the personnel was 25,000, but we really spent 35,000. We had a budget for 1,000 for supplies. We only spent 200. So they just submitted a revised budget to me, and nothing exceeded the 10% threshold that we would have to modify the grant. So they just sent me a new and improved budget and said, will you approve this? And I wrote back, I approve. And then they're going to go in and they're going to update their budget, and their reporting will reflect the new and improved budget. So they just moved stuff from one category to the other.
Okay. And this is back to the auditing topic. But this is question mark, only keep 128A project documents for 3 years. Is that correct? And then
That's what we do.
So that's the question. And then there was some chat going on about that. Is it different for the competitive grants?
Ooh, I don't know.
But you
I
could
don't
look at
know
the terms and
either.
conditions?
Yes, it'll be in your terms and conditions. And I do think, I'm sorry for the misspeaking, but Amy Jean is correct. It's after you get, when it comes to that 3-year period, it's after you get that final letter. I think I said after you submit your last FFR or something like that. So yeah, go with what Amy Jean said. And
So it's
it
3
is in your
years
terms and
from the
closeout letter.
documentation from EPA that they've received your closeout.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, and I would look in your terms and conditions for the competitive ones for the specific time period.
Yeah.
Offhand, I have no idea.
Yeah. Okay.
And I just want to throw in there, a person's tribe may have a different policy for that. So Bay Mills is the same as EPA, but maybe a tribe might say 5 years. So that might be something else also, maybe it's an internal policy that's different.
Yeah, and Lily pointed that out, and you're right, that could be something different. Yep.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay, our last question that came in via chat. Okay, if the application period is passed and all the needed documents were sent, and then the IDC rate is changed to a higher amount after the fact, would EPA still work with the old IDC rate, or would we let the project officer know of the changes?
Oh, so we would work with whatever IDC rate is applicable during the actual work time. So if the tribe, so if your grant starts 10/1/2025 and you have one rate all the way to December 31st, let's say it's 30%, that's your rate. But then starting January 1st, you would want to make sure that EPA has a copy of your new approved indirect cost rate. and now it's 40%, we would work with 40%. So whatever the rate is that's current in the year that we're working with you, it's not tied to your grant and you're stuck with the lower rate. We would go with the higher rate, but maybe the rate could go down, then we would go to the lower rate. So it's whatever rate is current at the time that you're working on it.
Okay, great. Thank you. All right. Terry just dropped a novel in the chat, which is great, which is the record retention requirements from two CFR 200.334. So I am going to copy all of that and put that in my notes. So I have that. I
There's
did not see, oh, sorry.
Oh, Jen, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. This comes up a lot, and because I always have a hard time finding those, I think they're in the general terms and conditions, which is the link at the bottom. So EPA has our general terms and conditions that goes in every grant. And then we have, I think Amy Jean was talking about this. We have the competitive specific for the assessment mark grants, cleanup grants and so forth. And then we have the 128A SCRP grants that have, program specific requirements. So these are the general terms and conditions, but the record retention is actually the lots more information in the CFR there that's linked. And I think it's the 3 years, but there's some nuances about that. So just wanted to draw your attention to that. I'm still trying to find exactly where it's laid out in the terms and conditions, but they do link to this CFR notation here.
Great. This is really, really helpful. Thank you so much for looking that up for us, Terry.
No problem.
I think I got everything that came in the chat.
Yeah, and let's just add, Christina Lotti from headquarters pointed out that we're having PALS training on October 22nd. So there should be an email about that. So hopefully that will talk about the enrolled or not enrolled. And but there's PALS training coming up on October 22nd.
Yes, thank you for pointing that out, Amy Jean. Before we go to break, do we have any more questions? If so, please feel free to unmute yourself, or put it in the chat, either way. And while we have wonderful experts here, we can pause a moment, see if there's any more questions. I think everybody's just ready to get up and walk around for a few minutes.
Good idea.
Yeah. Okay. So let's go ahead and go on break. This is not your only chance to ask questions about this topic. If you still have questions, feel free to put them in the chat and we'll make sure that they get addressed. Yes, I see a lot of applause. Let's give a huge applause to our wonderful speakers. Thank you so much for all of that. Really helpful, insightful information. It is 1:15 Central Time. Let's come back in 10 minutes, 1:25 Central Time, and then we will learn about building strong internal systems. So have a good break, everybody. All right. I am stalling for just a moment because I did receive a question that came in privately. So I do want to make sure that this person is back. So we'll go ahead and it's a question for Jen Satchel. So we'll go ahead and ask it out loud. And then Jen, if you don't mind, I think I might also copy this question into the chat. And then if you feel like you could answer it in writing too, just in case this person isn't back from the break. I don't want them to miss the response to this question. So what we were asked was, Jen, you mentioned 2 types of record keeping, an actual binder and a digital copy. Can you repeat the 6 record or file categories again?
Yes. So I stole that from Amy Jean and her a presentation she did previously, and just let me look through my notes. So hers and mine that I actually keep are a little bit different. So I will tell you both of them. So she has official grant project file, a 6-part folder. Part 1 is your application and documents related to that. Part 2 is correspondence during the application process. Part 3 is your assistance agreement. Part 4 is correspondence during the grant period. Part 5 is financial information. And Part 6, monitoring and technical or quarterly reports. And then I'm going to grab one of my binders, cleanup grant. So I have, personally, I do more than that. I have an award letter with the work plan and budget. I have reporting, so all my reports. I have accounting statements for every month. I have purchasing. Then I have a separate section for the pure procurement, like my RFPs and RFQs. I have a section on communications, like those things like maybe budget amendments or important communications with your project manager. If you have a QAP, so a quality assurance project plan, you need to keep a hard copy of that. So I have a section for a QAP, but the QAP is this big, so it's actually in a different binder. It's just some of my communication related to that. And then I also have a community engagement section too, which that got to be too big. So it's not in this binder, it's in another binder this big. So when you have a cleanup grant, buy 3 large binders. So those are a couple of different ways to track that. And I can put those things in the chat too.
Yeah, that would be great. I started trying to type while you were speaking, and I just can't type that fast enough. So I'll, like I said, there's another question too, but I will recopy that into the chat, and then if you could reply, directly to that one, that would be great.
Yep.
And then the second part is, so there's no set template for reporting. However, is there a certain format they would like to see or that they prefer? I hear take pictures and include it in your report. Is that really necessary?
I think it all depends on your region and probably your project manager. So the template that I have, I use that because that came from the region. But before that, I had one that I made up. And before that, I had one that I found online. So I would reach out to your project manager and see if they have a template that they would like you to use. And I don't think that you have to put in pictures if you don't want to. Some people probably like to see that. I will do that on some things, but usually it's more like my final technical report. It's not necessarily my quarterly report, but that's just me. So I would recommend to reach out to your project manager and see what they want you to do.
Okay. Amy Jean, you came on camera. Do you have anything
Well,
from an EPA perspective?
I was going to point out that the whole reason why Jen is doing the binder and having all that information is if she switches jobs, she becomes a manager, she moves to another state, she no longer does this job, a new person comes in. And let's say this occurs in the next month, and there's 4 grants that Jen is currently managing with 4 different types of reporting, acres and quarterly and semi-annual and bill and all that. They come in and they have no clue what they're doing. Those binders are what that new person is going to use as guidance on how to move forward. And that's why she's creating that. So another person can step into her position and know what to do. And that's really important because we hear a lot about tribal turnover and people only being there for a year. And I think that maybe sometimes the people are only there for a year because they didn't know what they were doing and they didn't feel supported, and no one else was telling them, because the Brownfields programs are really an isolated program. They're under like the natural resource director job, but they're not part of GAP funding. They're not always part of PPGs. They're individual, and sometimes it's only Jen herself doing it, and she's maybe isn't asking a boss what to do, and so a new person comes in and they're clueless, and so she's doing all this to help the next person that comes in, and she's doing it because it makes sense, and it's to audit proof her files when they come in and audit with all this bill funding. The office of the inspector general got a lot of money to audit what's going on with all this funding, how are we spending it. And so there's parts of it, and I think it's really important to think of the next person coming in and what can they use to make it easier, because there's never a transition. Jen could leave and that new person may not come in for an entire year. It's really hard to hire in tribal world. And so that whole, wow, what am I doing? I don't know. And she's not there to tell him what she did. So this is the whole point of the binder. One of the points of the binder, but a really important part. And I think even Richard said yesterday, I think he said when he started, he didn't know what to do. And now he has all these systems to help somebody else.
And I would just add that, I have these binders, but this is also the grant that I do the acres reporting for. So they could go into acres and see that, I'm assuming, after I were to leave. I guess I don't know for sure how that works, transitioning from one person to the next with acres. But anyways, there is the binder, plus there's acres. And yes, I think that brownfields is a different animal. And you're just sort of doing your own thing, and most people don't understand what you're doing. And I was in the same situation as Richard. The grant the tribe had received their first brownfields grant a few months before I came in, and there wasn't any. There was no program developed to come into. So good to have something to pass on to the next person.
Yeah. That's great. Thank you. And Terry's been wildly sharing links in the chat. If you're not following what Terry's posting, follow what Terry's posting. But the last thing she just shared is the connection information for the October 22nd PALS reporting. What is it? The PALS report template that the Acres team is going to be doing. So that connection information is now there for you. And I think with that, let us move on to our next set of speakers. This topic is building strong internal systems, which hopefully that you have been able to pick up throughout so far, that is, while we haven't particularly touched on this topic, that is a theme that keeps coming up. That kind of having these systems put in place are really, really essential for grant management and programmatic management. So we're going to hear from kind of three different perspectives here. Dr. Cynthia Nett is part of the Tribal Tab team. She's also kind of our technology expert. So she's going to share some of her wisdom and insights. And then after that, we will hear from Jason White and Sheila Sevenstar from Cherokee Nation. And then last, but absolutely certainly not least, Sarah Doskowitz from Copper River Native Association is going to share with us kind of her approach and how she does things. So, Cynthia.
Hi, that was the perfect segue that Jen and Amy Jean gave me when they're talking about what happens with the transition. And we could broaden that to what happens with communication of our program to our colleagues. It's really, really important to think hard about records and to think about the governance of the data and resources. So by governance, I mean who you share things with. Obviously, if you have a printed out notebook that stays in an office, that's one way where people know where the information is. But what if the records are digitized? What if they're online? It's really important to think about who has access to different accounts and how things are shared. So I'm going to give you a couple of tools today that will help with that, kind of management problem. And also I'm going to give you some tools that will help with grant management, in that we can do a lot of stuff for free that most people think would require expensive software. And right now I'm going to go through a whole series really, really fast. I'm putting my email in the chat. Please feel free to contact me. I'd be more than happy to help set any of these things up. I've got lots of hacks for how to do things for free. I love things for free. So to start off with, what types of tools am I talking about? Now, these are just some. We could probably create a very long list. Many of you will have tools that are provided by your tribe or your organization, like Teams and the Microsoft 365 and things of that sort. But sometimes we don't have those. We don't have an ArcGIS license. We have to figure out how to do workarounds. And that's what I'm talking about today. If you have access to Teams, if you have an ArcGIS Pro license even, if you have things like that, you're doing fine. But if you're walking into an office, no one has given you anything, you don't have a big budget, this is for you. So we can talk about databases, we can talk about mapping platforms, we can talk about things that are really handy for organizing information like forms, spreadsheets, and documents. And we can talk about websites. Again, if you have a really nice website, go for it. If you've got website developers, great. If you have nothing, this is for you. Okay. Okay. Starting off, this is something that I really would like to promote. For those of you who have used BIT in the past and were unhappy, come back to us. We have just spent the last couple of years, this is practically what I've been doing most of the time. We spent the last couple of years completely redesigning BIT. We burned it down. We rebuilt it from the ground up, even new computer language behind it. BIT is new and it's wonderful. I'm very proud of it. So what we've got is a brand new user interface design that basically will walk you through how to set up a Brownfields program. We spent a lot of time thinking through the order of things. We give you a list of links on the left-hand side of it that will take you from the beginning to the end of all the things that you need to develop a site inventory, to set up grant management, all kinds of different aspects of beginning a Brownfields program. One of the things that we just added that I'm particularly excited about, I used to do workshops on how to use online mapping tools to look up EPA databases. Well, we've internalized that into BIT. So now within the map in BIT, you can go into the FRS database and you can look up what acre sites are near points of interest. You can look up everything in the FRS database and see what is around the site that you're looking at. We've made it so that you can buffer it from like, I think a half mile to 5 miles. So you can specify the area and then you can pull in any site that you're interested in into your BIT database. From the bitmap, you can access the information on permitting and violations and things of that sort that are in FRS directly through live links. We've also I think we just launched, if not, we're just about to launch the Open Dump Cost Estimator that was developed by Frank Harjo's group. We've recreated it within BIT. So you can now use the information that you add into your site inventory and you can get a cost estimate for that cleanup. We have grand plans in the future to generalize this to different types of cleanups. But for now, building on the wonderful work that the Muskogee Cree gave us, we have that cost estimator. We've also internalized the peer tool, which gives you a ranking of which sites are more or less worrisome. I'll just put it that way. And so you've got the peer tool within BIT and you've got the Open Dump Calculator within BIT. So you don't have to be opening up 5 or 6 different tabs like I used to have to teach. We have added a lot of reporting tools. They're basically a Word document that exports the information on that page, which makes it really easy to cut and paste. We're hoping eventually to be able to feed bit into Tab Easy. We're not there yet, but at least in key parts of bit, you can push the button for report and get a Word document with everything nicely laid out. We have been working on Bit Mobile. Okay, so Bit. For those of you who haven't used Bit, Bit is set up by KSU Tab. It is on an external server, private server. It's not the university server, it's a private server. It is password protected. You can share it just with the people you want. So you can share it with people in your office talking about governance. You want to have someone that is on that is going to be around if you change jobs, and it can be shared with your predecessor. Excuse me, shared with the person who takes over your job afterwards. So the predecessor can share it with the person who's new on the job and have the entire bit database set up for them on their first day. Okay, it's private just to you and the people that share it. That's a really important part. We have been working on Bit Mobile, so you can take your bit database into the field on your mobile device and do in-person site checks and modify the data on site. So try Bit. If you've tried it before and were frustrated, it's a completely new beast and can help a great deal with tracking. You can put in, oh yes, it used to talk to acres, but it doesn't right now because of things on the acres side. We have dreams that will once again be able to connect them up so that you can report directly into acres. We can help you with how to manage it now, but at least for now, the bit acres interface has been broken. Okay, moving on, this crash course, this is just introducing you to ideas. Like I said, get a hold of me. I'd be more than happy to spend as much time as you want talking about these things. As you can tell, I get excited about them. ArcGIS Online has a free version. You can set up what's called a public account, which is a free account that allows you to save what you do and allows you to share what you do. ArcGIS Online, the free version, actually has quite a few tools you can use. One of my favorite things about it is you can use the geo platform, like the EPA geo platform. You can also use the Living Atlas to import layers. So you can import a lot of layers that have been created by others, do some quality control checks, and use them yourself. It's amazing how much you can now do for free on ArcGIS Online. I encourage you to try it out. If you're going to do quantitative analyses and you need more tools and you don't have an ArcGIS license, you can use QGIS. QGIS is a little bit more DIY. It's a little bit more difficult to use because they don't have the money to put into a simplified user interface, but it is doable and it's for free. So I think Jen Clancy just took an entire class on QGIS. We're more than happy to help you with it if you want to go that route. And it allows you to do very extensive analyses. Another tool, I've done a lot of workshops on this. I'd be more than happy to help people with it. Google Earth and Google My Maps. These are free. Google Earth is wonderful for storytelling. If you really want to engage people and immerse them in a presentation, Google Earth Pro and Google Earth Pro, or excuse me, Google Earth Web are great tools because it gets you down into the 3D Earth views in a really beautiful way. So that is available. Google My Maps are available in Google Drive. I know some people can't use Google Drive in their work accounts, but Google My Maps are great because they're very simple and very fast. And you can do map mashups where people can throw their ideas on a map. You can collaborate. I've had 20 college students battling it out on the same map before. So, you know, it's really interactive and really easy. It's also very easy to embed on your website. One of the things you can do with My Maps, the next thing probably I'm going to talk about, is you can set it up so that you have a Google form, which is in Google Drive, set up into a Google spreadsheet for the responses, and then you can dump that into a Google My Maps and you can put it on your website. So you can have a form for the community to give you their information. For example, where's a brownfield site? You can just put that, and the community can tell you their concerns and their ideas. And then you can take that, if you wanted to, you can map that information very easily. So it's a great community engagement tool. Sheets and forms. I like Google spreadsheets better than Excel, to tell you the honest truth. Some people don't have a Microsoft account. You can use the Google Sheets instead of Excel. Doesn't do the really advanced stuff, but it does the simple stuff much more easily. It's much faster to be able to make graphs and things of that sort. So Google spreadsheets are available. They're collaborative. You can put as many people on it as you want. You can embed them in your website if you want. So Google Sheets are a nice tool if you can use Google Drive. And anyone who wants a demo, just email me and we can work on it. Forms can be used to populate Google Sheets, like I said. And then Google Sheets, if you want, can be used to populate maps. So it's a very easy workflow that will take 15 minutes to show you how to do it. Finally, some more free tools to consider. Google Documents, if you don't have access to Word, Google Docs are a nice, easy, it's a slimmed down version of Word. It works pretty much the same way. Collaborative online, easy to share. One of the things you can do is you can have all these different things in the same Google Drive folder. So when I teach the workflow, I say, put your documents in there, put images, put PDF files, put spreadsheets, put maps, put the Google sites all in the same folder. You can do similar workflows if you've got Microsoft Office 365 or if you have Teams, but if you don't, then just a personal Google Drive account can get you a long ways for free. Websites, Google sites are not very glamorous, but they're really, really fast. And so if you, for example, want to develop a Google site for a community meeting and you've got like 15 minutes to do it, you can put up a website really fast, a simple website with a lot of information on it, and use it with just a couple of pages to help support a community meeting, for example, and share that with your colleagues. Here's a great example where ITEP used a Google site for TLEF. Or this was a Tribal Exchange Network conference, forgive me, but I think they've also used it at various times to announce things for other programs. So like I said, they're quick and easy and they're ideal for, you can do it just internally. You can make them private. So you can set up a little Google site. I like to use Google Sites because you can embed maps in it and you can embed a lot of things in it to make a one-stop shopping type thing for your colleagues. For example, I might want to put a YouTube, I might want to put a form that asks my colleagues questions, I might want to put a Google map in it, and I might want to put a slideshow in it for my presentation. I can do all that on one page, and when you get used to it, it doesn't take any time at all just to embed everything, and then it's in one place. I guess what I'm saying is that this is my version of those beautiful folders that we just saw. You can think the same way. How am I going to organize things for my colleagues, and how am I going to organize things for future brownfields professionals who are going to be working on my projects? How am I going to organize things, say, for my contractors? How am I going to share things out? If we are very careful with the way we set things up online, so that we're using a very straightforward structure and we're thinking about governance in terms of who we share things with and who is allowed to edit, we can set up virtual folders to help with that project management. And I think that's all the time I have. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Cynthia. I always love listening to you talk about all of these tools. Before we move into our next speakers, I do want to touch on a few questions that came in. I know you were watching the chat, but just in case everybody else wasn't watching the chat. So one of the questions is, what's the difference between acres and bit? Which I feel comfortable to answer, but I will let you answer if you want to answer that.
Go for it.
So acres is a reporting platform that is built and required by EPA for all of their cooperative agreements, brownfields cooperative agreements. You have to do your, whatever frequency of reporting in the acres database. So that's an EPA grant reporting platform. BIT is a tool that, as Cynthia mentioned, our friends at KSU Tab built, and it is specifically for site inventory, but also that's how it started. But now with all of these amazing additions and interfaces and everything that Cynthia was talking about, it has become a really pretty powerful program management tool. And so I did share in the link our session, the video for the session that we did at TLEF, where that was really what we were focusing on, was not just here's BIT as this inventory tool, but here's how you can use this to kind of manage your entire program. So they are two separate things. They used to be able to interface, as we touched on, but that the funding for that was deprioritized by EPA. So the interface between BIT and acres has been broken. If you would like to see that back, we suggest that you reach out to the acres team and let them know a lot and loudly that you would like to see that come back, because when that interface is live, what that allows you to do is keep track of all your site information in BIT. So then it's there, it's yours, it's your record, it's your database, it's your everything you have. But then you can export what you need for your quarterly reporting in acres. You were able to export that directly into acres. So it saved you from having to retype everything into acres. So it was a really wonderful thing. We really do want to see it come back. We are trying to work on some workarounds. It won't be a direct interface between the two, but we are trying to come up with some solutions that will allow you all to basically kind of like download exactly what you need for the type of reporting that you need, so that then you could just copy and paste. You could download your records from BIT and then copy and paste into acres. We are working on that. So again, reach out to acres and be loud and let them know that you want to see that interface come back.
And we are perfectly happy to set it up so that we could export a spreadsheet that could be imported into acres, but acres doesn't allow a spreadsheet in import. So anything we can do to make it easier for you to put your data in acres, we'd probably be game for. And I forgot to say that it's free. It's free. And
Yes.
it also, BIT can be used for anything. So if, for example, you want to set up a BIT for your brownfield site inventory, but you also want to add in sites perhaps that are culturally important or critical infrastructure, you can put that all into BIT and have them talk to each other.
Yes, I'm going to stop talking so that we can get to the next speakers, but I do want to make this little comment. Cynthia, you commented about how it, used to be pretty clunky and weird. Back a million years ago when I managed a brownfields program, I I always felt like I shouldn't admit this now that I work for KSU, but I did not use Bit. I did not find it easy to use. I didn't like it. I went another way for my inventory. I am so impressed with this tool now. It's really easy to use. It's really pretty cool. The Bit mobile app is pretty fun. We've had a lot of fun at some workshops with it recently, doing some little kind of field trip sort of things. So if it's something you've not used, it is free. It is very powerful. The data can be downloaded and exported, imported, wherever into other places, not acres. So get in touch with us, and we can help you out. The Tribal Tab team, we may not be the ones to tell you exactly how to use it, but we can definitely connect you with the people that are the deep experts and can tell you all of the fantastic little secrets about this tool. So I'm going to stop there. My little bit sales pitch. I never thought I would be doing that, but Cynthia and the other Maggie and our other colleagues that have been putting so much time into this with, I know with help from Frank Carjo over the last few years, they've really done an amazing job. So, okay. Thank you so much, Cynthia. Let's move on. One more time, there's Cynthia's contact information. She did put it in the chat. All right, Jason and Sheila.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone. Sheila and I are grateful to be a part of this workshop and web series. But before we start, I just want to give everybody a heads up that we appreciate the opportunity, and it's a great program to reach out to tribes, what's available, what's out there. And Ian's discussion was really good because there's a lot of resources out there that are very readily available for you. So Cynthia was right. There's some really great tools. And so Sheila and I wanted to talk about, from a tribal perspective, on what we've done to build eternal systems within our tribe. Okay, and we have a lot of neat pictures. And so this is just a background about us. We have currently 3 Brownfields grants. We have a Brownfields 128A grant, a community-wide Brownfields assessment grant, as well as a BIL grant. And so we have a lot of eternal discussions that we have to do before we actually go after grants, as well as to work on the current grants we have. So Sheila and I, with our Brownfields team, have to do a lot of planning, preparation, and we utilize other departments within Cherokee Nation. And we reach out to those free tools that we can use, and we also work with our partners to provide information and give us some mentorship of what they've done. So if there's any way that Sheila and I can help out, we'll be glad to. Just based on our experience. So one of the first things we'll do is we get together as a team, and we know there's a lot of wonderful opportunities through the Brownfields program, a lot of grant funding activities that are open for anybody tribes to apply. And so the first thing we do is when we look at grants, does it meet our objective for our Brownfields grant? Some of the things we have out there we're not ready for. For example, there's a really neat one like the job training grant. Our tribe is very interested in it, but we're just not quite ready. So when we have these eternal discussions, we want to make sure that our staff has the capability to meet these deliverables. Is this a grant that our staff can actually adequately complete? And will it also benefit our tribe? And we have to look at some of our eternal departments that we can utilize that can help us ensure the success of these grants. For example, with our tribe, we have a procurement department, so they can help with the contract support. If we have to put out bids and, work with contractors, and our procurement support also includes like being able to obtain equipment and supplies. And we also reach out to other departments like our financial department that can help provide the financial support, the record keeping. We do a lot of in-house projects ourselves, but sometimes we have to rely on other people. And you mentioned Cynthia mentioned where, when you look at adding additional information into, your reports and your databases, sometimes we have to utilize other departments. We have a GIS department, and sometimes we have to utilize them to get more of like the cultural membership information, as well as like some of the cultural sites, significant sites. Sometimes we also work with our tribal historic preservation office. So we work out with other departments within the tribe that can ensure success so that we can go after these grants and fully engage them and be able to complete the deliverables. And so we also have to have support from our management. So sometimes our management will ask these really good questions and make sure that we're on track. Is this something that the tribe is interested in? Sometimes when you look at grants, it's very attractive to see these many, but it's also overwhelming at the same time. And it doesn't have to be. But for example, if it's a good opportunity for our tribe, we have a lot of discussions. And then we also reach out to our grants development team. We'll write the grants, but sometimes they'll actually review them. And I do want to give a plug in to KSU tab program. We've actually utilized them to help us. We may ask some grant questions. They've actually got a peer review process team that can help peer review grants as well. So there's a lot of great tools out there. Going to the next slide. And so while we have these discussions internally, the first thing we kind of do is kind of dive deep into the discussions. What will be our short-term goals? Is this a 1 or 2 year grant or a 5-year grant? Is this something that we can achieve? For example, we're very interested in the Brownfields cleanup grant. We don't have one right now, but so we're looking at identifying, some short-term goals. We have those established, and we're kind of reviewing the process and evaluating our long-term goals and make sure that we stay on track. And then we want to make sure our goals achievable. The last thing we want to do is overwhelm your staff with, applying for multiple grants, and then we're not able to achieve those goals. And when we apply for grants for Cherokee Nation, we look at building capacity. Do these grants help build our Brownfields program app? Will it actually, from a tribal perspective, will this help meet the goals for the tribe when their redevelopment initiatives, our site assessment initiatives, and as well as our reuse initiatives? Our tribe has been very progressive in building a lot of new construction type projects, and so our tribe has been very active in writing assessments for our tribe. And so it's been really unique for us to be involved with those, to be involved in the assessment and to be part of the process in the big picture of redevelopment and reusing property. And our staff, we also look at how it builds our technical capacity. Are we able to get training, get the support we need? A lot of stuff we have is in-house. We do most of our work in-house. Very rarely do we contract stuff out, but there's a couple contracts. So sometimes we look at ways, does this grant also help us build that technical capabilities for us to be able to do a lot of these in-house? And we also look at the resources available. Will this grant also help us, get additional equipment? For example, will it help us get sampling equipment? Will this help us with getting equipment that can help with the assessment? Maybe like if we need, let's say, for example, additional things for your assessment work. Like right now, we're very interested in purchasing a camera that will help us with some of the drums that may be found on site, or some of the above ground storage tanks to determine if there's liquid in there. So sometimes we're looking at grants that can also provide a funding source to be able to update our existing equipment. And this is a unique part of what we do as a tribe. When we do our assessments and write our reports, we want to make sure that we're very culturally aware of our projects, which makes us really unique because we're looking at it from a holistic picture, not necessarily just redevelopment, but we're also looking at making sure it protects our cultural resources, and as well as protecting sensitive information. We don't necessarily document everything, especially some of our sacred sites. You don't want to really document that, especially if you have a FOIA and your reports can be out to the public. So sometimes we are very selective on what we put in there. Like, for example, you may not want to put some of your sacred cave sites or like water sites. You know, you don't really want to put that in there, but we know that internally where those sites are. And we can also work with our historic preservation office. And we want to make sure that we honor our sacred sites. I know our tribe's been buying back a lot of properties just to protect these sacred sites and to be able to get control back of the land use near the areas or where the certain things are located. So we also have to be very flexible. So sometimes our sites are a little bit complex, but we're willing to learn and we're constantly evolving, and especially with our site assessment work. And so we partner with a lot of other programs that can help us with that. For example, if we're looking at tribal communities, we can dive a little bit deeper and get the information we need for our assessment work. And of course, everybody already knows this. There's a lot of funding opportunities right now. It's really exciting to see these grants available, and I'm sure they've been talked about. So if you're interested in applying for grants, you know, like for us, we have eternal discussions. You know, is this a grant that would benefit our tribe? And like, for example, there's one or two we may have the support to do it. For example, you know, we're very interested in the job training grant, but we're not quite ready. We're not quite there. So we're not going to chase that grant right now. I mean, Cherokee Nation has a career services department, which would fit perfectly for them, but we've got to find a way to get environmental and career services connected and see if this is something we want for the tribe. So sometimes we'll see these wonderful opportunities, but you know, it's just like eternally we're not ready. And the same for the revolving loan. You know, we've reached out. Is this something our tribe can do? In our commerce department, we've had discussions with them and they're interested and we could do it, but we're not ready for that. So at this time, we're not going to apply for those grants. So we have a lot of eternal discussions. So looking at logistics, and this is some that Cynthia covered, kind of will help measure and ensure success. I know Cherokee Nation, we have our databases. We have a lot of internal databases. We also use some other tools to help us keep track of our reports and help us keep track of, you know, the process of where the sites are. You know, our Brownfields program is about 15 years old. And so it's nice to see some of these sites that we did 15 years ago where they're at today. And websites, there's a lot of website information out there. Feel free to utilize those. We also like to document with our website as well. Story maps, a lot of people are using story maps to tell their success stories. We just completed ours and we're actually going to put up a link on our iTip webpage, and hopefully that'll be posted probably within by October 1st, if you guys are interested in. It just tells a little bit about our brownfields, and that way our tribal citizens can see that, tribes can see that, and just show you what our brownfields program's doing. We're also how to measure success with community involvement. You know, that's a big component of the Brownfields program. You know, Sheila updates the public record. We do some community involvement with some of our cities that we're working with in our community-wide grant. We also talk with, sometimes we'll be engaged in community meetings just to tell them what Brownfields is, and then sometimes being part of that engagement process of what they'd like to see in their communities. And from the management perspective, you know, it dives a little bit deeper. For example, what's required of the grant. So anybody that's writing a grant or managing a grant, we want to focus on the requirements. Sometimes we get so caught up on what our goals are that we kind of like, oh, we gotta make sure we step back and review, is this something we need for the grant? And then we also, for example, have intense budget setup meetings. We do it internally. We set up our own, and then we also work with our finance team and our SONAR, which is the Secretary of Natural Resources budget staff, to help set up those budgets. And we also use that for tracking our expenditures and just the financials into the grant. And that Sheila and I also do reports. So a lot of these reports serve multiple purposes. You know, even though it's a grant requirement, we utilize these reports internally. You know, and some of these reports are quarterly, semi-annual, or year-end reports. A lot of that information is very valuable because you can look back on that and see what you produced that year. For example, if management would like to know what you've done in the last 2 or 3 years, you could pull those reports up. And it's also a great way to report to our EPA project officers what projects we're working on. For us, Sheila and I do biweekly reports for our management. So they're constantly engaged in what our Brownfields program is doing. We also write monthly tribal council reports. We're constantly updating reports. So a lot of these reports are internal as well. They're not necessarily going out to the public, but some of them will go out to EPA. And so a lot of those are catered to our needs. And I know we just did a quick short presentation, and here's Sheila and I's contact information. Please feel free to reach out to us. We're excited to help others. We've been very blessed to have other mentors that have helped us with our grants as well. And we look forward to these types of workshops. So please feel free to reach out to Sheila and I. And I guess that's the conclusion of our presentation. If you have any questions for Sheila and I.
Thanks, Jason, so much. It's always so inspiring to listen to all the amazing work your program and your community has been doing over the years. I haven't seen any questions come in directly for you. Just wonderful comments. But if you have questions for Jason and Sheila right now, please feel free, put them in the chat or unmute and ask, and we can get to them. If we don't get them this second, we'll make sure we circle back before we leave here today.
Thank you. Thank you.
No one's jumping at it. So, okay, it's not your last chance. But we will now turn the control over to Sarah to talk about, how she's doing things and at the Copper River Native Association. So Sarah, whenever you are ready.
Hello, everyone. I'm Sarah Daskowitz. I'm the environmental manager at Copper River Native Association located in Glen Allen, Alaska, in the Copper River Valley. So like the other presentations, this presentation is going to be on how to build a strong internal systems. And it might be a little bit repetitive, probably cover some things that people have already talked about, but hopefully you learn a little something new. This presentation is supposed to be very interactive, so I would love it if people would participate and either talk or put stuff in the chat for this. It's going to be kind of like an escape room activity, and we're going to try to answer some clues and riddles about how to build and unlock strong internal systems. So the situation, we're locked in the office. The only way out is to uncover the 4 keys to building a strong internal system. That is the only way to escape the office. We're going to have to answer puzzles and riddles and figure out those 4 keys. So this is the first puzzle. We need to unscramble the word. So our clue for this is you have meetings, deadlines, and reports due. What tool ensures that you never miss an important date? So what do people think that word can be? The word is at the top. So what are some thoughts that people might have?
Yeah, we're getting a lot of answers coming in the chat, and I believe they're
I'm seeing them.
Good work, everyone.
All right. So yes, people that I see have written in the chat are correct. The answer is calendar. So yay, we've unlocked the first key. It is really important to keep track of your time and capacity and to stay organized. I use my calendar for everything. every meeting I have, brownfield site visit I plan, webinar that I attend, etc. I put everything on my calendar, and that helps me keep track of my time, what I have planned, and my activities. This helps me keep track of what I've done, what I need to do, and help organize my time effectively and efficiently. So this is an example of my calendar. So it might be a little bit hard to read and hard to see, but you don't need to necessarily read everything, but it's just kind of an example of, I put in holidays that are there. I put in what trainings I have. I put in when I take off leave. I put in meetings that I have, etc. I put in when my supervisor is gone. So this really helps me keep track of what I'm working on and helps me manage my time. All right, so moving on to the next puzzle. So our second puzzle, we need to fill in the missing link. So our clue for this is, a draft is written, but it can't be submitted yet. One important step, make sure mistakes are caught and improvements are made. What is the missing step? Does anyone have any thoughts? Anyone think what the missing step could be? Okay, I'm starting to see stuff in the chat. I'll give like a couple more seconds. Anyone else have any thoughts? Anyone else want to participate? So the answer is review. So yes, I think maybe some people use some different words, but everyone in the chat seemed to get it. So yeah, so the answer is review document. And for this, I did a procedure manual. So I develop a procedure manual for my tribal response program. This, I think, really helps with turnover, provides clear instructions on what to do, how to do it, gives resources for completing tasks and activities, where to get assistance, and more. So my TRP manual, kind of what I said, explains what the TRP program is, what brownfield sites are, TRP allowable activities, the process of addressing a brownfield site or identifying a brownfield site here at CRNA, identification, inventory, assessment, cleanup, community outreach, reporting, meetings, suggested for conferences to attend, resources, contacts, how to develop a work plan and budget. Pretty much anything that I could think of that is involved with this program is included in this manual that anyone here at CRNA can read. So if I leave or if something happens to me, someone can kind of step in and at least have an idea of where to start. And if anyone else has any ideas of what to include, topics or subjects to include, let me know and I'd be happy to make sure that they're included in mine. And with permission from my supervisor, I can definitely share this document with others if they want to use it as a template for their own communities. So this is the resource that a new person would receive when they come into the program. And that's why I think it's really important to write down everything that you need to do. All right, our next puzzle. So lost in translation. So we need to decipher the clue or the riddle. Without me, misunderstandings grow. With me, teamwork thrives. What am I? And the pictures are hints to what the answer is. So yeah, I'm seeing some stuff come in the chat. Awesome. So any thoughts to what this might be? Give it one more second or two. Thank you all for who are participating. It's really encouraging. All right, and the answer is communication. I think I saw everyone in the chat that commented did say communication. So yes, communication. Great job, everyone. We've unlocked the third key. Communication builds clarity. It isn't a one-time task or a one-time kind of event. Regular follow-ups and updates make sure that everyone stays on the same page and then nothing slips through the crack. Keep the conversation going, keep people updated, keep asking people for info that you need, resources that you need. It's not a one-time kind of deal. It's consistent and continuing outreach and communication. Ongoing communications also create stronger teamwork. By continuing to ask questions, share information, and check in, you build trust and ensure that people feel included and feel accountable. And so projects and activities can get completed and move forward. All right. Our last key 4. So memory matters. I'm your memory when you forget. Without me, details disappear. So on my next slide, I'm going to show a series of numbers in that blank space there. And I'm going to show it for about 10 seconds and then get off of it. And then I'm going to have you guys type in the chat how many numbers that you can remember or that you can memorize. All right, so ready? So here are the numbers. So just take a few seconds, try to memorize, look at them, as many as you can. All right, I know that's pretty quick, but now type in the chat, see how many numbers that you can remember in the correct order. If anyone wants to try. I know that was pretty quick, maybe a little too quick. All right, I'm seeing some stuff come in. Nice. Some people got some. Nice. Awesome. All right. So this is more of a kind of, not a riddle per se, but just a kind of example. So the reason for this is to keep records. So that is the answer for the numbers. And this is to show that your memory isn't always perfect. And you shouldn't rely on just your memory when you're doing all of your projects. You really it is really important to keep records of everything that you've done. And I know that's been said multiple times yesterday and today throughout this whole presentation, but it is really important. And this is a good example of why it's important to keep records, because even in just those few seconds when you answered right away, there were some mistakes. Granted, you didn't see the numbers for long, but there were some mistakes just in those few seconds. So imagine months apart trying to remember something from months ago and getting it accurate. If you keep good and accurate records, you will know what you need to do, when stuff is due, and not have to worry about forgetting anything. You should write down and keep records of everything, every follow-up email, phone call. If you get a phone call and talk with someone on the phone, it's great to send an email to them saying, hey, just to follow up from a phone call, this is what we discussed, just so you have something written down that you can go back to and remember. Write down what you did each day. And I think people have covered this already in previous presentations, but again, just to be a little repetitive, write down what you did every day, who you talked to, who you need to follow up with, what you did for your projects and activities. I use an Excel spreadsheet and I keep up stuff that activities and work that I did for every single day. This way I'm able to go back and look at what I did for that day, or go back and see when I reached out to someone or when I emailed or talked to someone. Organization is really important for keeping records. Make sure you know where you're saving your files, where you're saving your documents, where you can find them, and that other people know where they can find them as well. Make sure it's easily accessible and clearly labeled and easy to find. And again, it's good for memory and good for turnover. If you write everything down and keep good records and have good file organization, you'll be able to find whatever you need to, and the person coming after you or someone else in your organization will be able to find that information as well when needed. So this is just kind of an example of my file organization setup. I am part of a department called Tribal Community Services, TCS. So TCS has their own file on our CRNA server. So you can see it highlighted there is the TRP folder. So that's where all of my TRP information goes. In that TRP folder, I have all of these folders. So I have regional brownfields meetings once a quarter. So all of that is there. I have assessment specific folder for assessment documents, general kind of TRP documents. And then each fiscal year has its own file. So if I'm looking for something back in FY17, I can go there and know exactly where to go. And then this is TRP FY24, the current almost ending fiscal year. So this is what I have for this past year. So I have a folder for budget, a folder for deliverables, receipts, and then kind of general stuff just gets saved to that folder that I can make sure to go back and look at later that I know is there. So the lock broke open and we've escaped. So we solved we found the 4 keys to a strong internal system. So sorry, I do not have a contact slide. I forgot to make one, but I can put my contact in the chat, and Tab can provide it to anyone who wants it. But hopefully that you guys learned a little something, and hopefully this helped with how to build strong internal system. So my 4 keys that I really focus on are utilizing my calendar, having and making sure I update my procedure manual. That's the biggest thing too, is make sure it's constantly updated. I try to keep really good communication with all of my tribes and partners, and I try to keep very good records as well. So hopefully we're on our way to building strong internal systems and setting up a strong TRP program. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Sarah. That was really fun. What a cool way to do that. Any specific questions for Sarah before we move into, we're gonna make y'all engage with us some more. So before we do that, or not just for Sarah, any questions for Sarah or Jason or Cynthia before we move forward? And again, we're going to have a whole opportunity for discussion. So if you are reluctant to ask right now, it's not your only chance. All right, what we are going to do now, we're going to stop. I'm going to stop sharing this screen. Bailey's gonna, in just a second, and Bailey's going to pull up a Word document because we're going to wait, put it back. I don't remember what the instructions are. But we're going to capture your thoughts in real time. So we invite you to unmute your microphone and speak. Otherwise, please use the chat. But please share with us one tool, can be more than one, that you love to use within your program and why. So you can unshare now. Thank you. So one tool, Bailey's going to pull up a document. I'm putting this in the chat. One tool you like to use in your program and why. Don't leave us hanging here looking like crazy people sitting in silence with a Word document.
Can you see the Word document, Jen?
Yes.
Did it share?
Yep.
Okay,
Yep,
fantastic.
Looks great.
Okay.
Thanks, Bailey. We've heard a lot of stuff today. Do any of you use similar things? And it's fine if it's, oh, here we go. Lots of stuff coming in. Google Earth Pro. This is used to mark down where buildings were that are no longer standing. That's a great thing. QGIS is free, and I've gotten it working as well as ArcGIS, also a calendar. Yes. I think mapping tools are so cool. I'm very fascinated by maps in general and building my own maps. Google Earth, yes. Smart Sheets, a worksite database. I've never even heard of that, Krista. I'm gonna have to look that up. Outlook calendar, yes, Sarah, I'm with you. If it is not on my calendar, it didn't happen and it will not happen, and that's just how that works. And I am like Jason or Richard, and I have a gajillion different color codes for my calendar too. Calendar and desktop sticky notes, yes. The bullet journal, which we heard about yesterday, and I have so many more questions about. I am with you, Richard. We're of the same generation, and technology entered our lives a little bit later than some people, and so I'm with you. I need paper. Calendars, yes. Outlook calendar, meeting invitations, yes. Kermit, what do you use for public? Oh, Google Earth for public meetings and contractors. We'll see if he responds. Mary Rose. Take pictures that I can go back. Yes. Get the date. Yes. I think pictures are a wonderful thing. I'm a very visual person. So being able to have something to look at, AI. I don't use this, but I'd like to learn how. I have been embracing AI a little bit more recently. It just in certain things, but it is a huge time saver. I don't want to rely on it too much because, again, we just talked about healthy distrust of technology. But it has become very helpful to me. And Jason, I don't know, maybe we can have some discussions about this. Okay, Krista's tool, the Smart Sheets is like Excel, but it's the way they track everything. Yes, I think you should check out Bit again. I never thought I would give a plug for Bit, but I'm very very excited about where this tool has come. The Zoom program, yes, where would we be without Zoom, Joey? Network server. Bailey's typing away. Do I actually need to read all of these? I'm just entertaining everyone with my reading.
I think you keep entertaining, Jen. Otherwise, there'll just be silence that I'm typing.
Other people are free to unmute themselves, so you don't have to just listen to me the whole time. If you want to,
I'm swapping back and forth with the chat, so you're reading things that I'm missing.
I want to make a plug for Airtable. I don't work for them, but like I love them because Airtable is everything that oh shoot, what's the Microsoft version? That spreadsheet, not spreadsheet, the database
Access.
Airtable is everything Access wants to be and failed. Like I tried to play with Access for years. It's overly complicated and it's just a wreck. Airtable is more than keeping your like public record or your internal site inventory in Excel. Like Excel, like you can kind of use it for database stuff, but it's not designed for that, right? It's designed for formulas. So I use Airtable to store my Element 1 site inventory, my public record, correspondence quarterly with our state level environmental people, because they don't have one point of contact. You have to contact like 24 people and track where you are in every conversation. And the cool thing is I do the paid subscription, which is $240 a month, or excuse me, a year, $240 a year. And it allows you to build your own template that pulls the data from your spreadsheet and just plugs it in. So when I have to do my public record, boom, it's done. And because I update it every month, it's the most current version always. And it's just that one-time effort to make your form. So anyway, that's my little plug.
That's
They're
great.
very friendly, helpful. They'll train you. If you have any questions, they will look to find an answer.
That is great. I have minimal experience with Airtable, but I'm always very curious about it after Richard talks about it.
Yeah, when we were allowed to use the Google Suite, I used to have, so I would keep track of the most recent comments because our environmental department says these are active, like brownfield sites we're focused on, are active contaminated sites. But then you look and it hasn't had like a comment in 3 years. So I created a rule that like if there's a site I have that hasn't been updated in more than 365 days, it gets flagged. And that makes a list every month for me on the 1st and sends it to my Google Drive. Like, hey, talk to the people about these sites that are active but haven't had a comment in over a year. So, I mean, you can do a lot of cool stuff with it.
That's amazing. I just need
Yeah,
you, like I said yesterday, I need you to organize my life, please.
I'll do your work life if you do my financials at home.
Okay, you might regret that, but you know, we'll. All right, what else have we got? OneDrive, yes, we use a lot of OneDrive in our organization because we can share everything and it's secure. We all have access to it. The Motion app, I don't know what that is, Michaela. We can talk about that later. Auto populates on her calendar all the tasks she needs to do. She uses it for her schoolwork because she is finishing up her PhD right now. Extracurricular service work. Yeah, that sounds cool. More for the Microsoft suite in general, yes. Microsoft Teams, agreed. Another smart sheet. Okay, so I'm missing something I'm missing out on apparently. Yes. Joey specifically mentions the Alaska DNR website, but I think any of the state environmental sites for searching for property information, records, anything like that. Anyone else? This is I did see that, but I did drones, yes. Using drones to get aerial footage of your sites and also, not just aerial footage, but I've heard some communities use them when there are buildings that are unsafe to go into. They can send the drones in there to get imagery inside the buildings. Yes, phones. Krista, except not at the EPA. Apparently EPA doesn't use phones anymore. Just the rest of us.
Jen, it says that my screen sharing is paused. Is it like popping up in and out when I
No,
switch back?
I see phones
You
is
still see it?
it's still up, and phones is the last bullet that
Okay,
I see.
wonderful. I was afraid it was like flashing in all of your eyes. So
Bailey's computer is a
possessed.
lemon, and every time we meet, it's always a treat of what's the computer gonna do today? It's not a lemon. It has a mind of its own. It's a very independent computer.
Bailey and I just have
Yes.
that kind of luck together. So if we ever see each
do.
other on a plane, one of us has to disembark.
Everyone needs to listen.
Yeah.
Oh, Kayla, Canva. Yes. Yes.
Yes, Canva.
I have been using Canva minimally for the last few years, and luckily now I have a marketing person that does all of this stuff for me. And the things that she does with Canva, oh my gosh, like she shows me stuff every day. I knew how to do basic stuff, could still make stuff look good, but had no idea the true functionality of it. So, and there is a free version of it that is very, very powerful. So, would that be something? Let me ask y'all this while I have your attention. If you don't know how to use Canva, do know how to use Canva, but maybe not that well, would it be helpful for us to bring Haley, our marketing person, into this space and give I don't know, a webinar? I'm not sure what, but some kind of like a tutorial for everyone on how to use Canva? Okay. I'm seeing a lot of yes. Oh, Haley's going to be, I don't know how thrilled with me she's going to be, but I think it would be great. It was something we were trying to get put together for a recent event and we just couldn't pull it together. So she is thinking about it. Okay. It ties nicely with our storytelling, one of our technical assistant subject areas that we had to address. So, oh, Joey, I'm so with you. If we do not have fun, we spend so much of our time at work, right? It consumes. It's where we spend a lot of our life. So I am very much a fan of having fun, finding ways to break up the day. I have toys at my desk. When I worked in an office, I had bubbles that I would blow over the wall of my neighbors when I was hearing things get a little intense. So yes, I think anything that we can do to keep ourselves calm and remember why we're here. We all do um, really great work. Y'all are, amazing and do so much for your communities. But it can be very, very intense emotionally, physically. So keeping it light is really good, really important. Yeah, we will post this. Mary Rose asked, will we be sharing this list? Yes. So we will add this list to the event website, which Hannah will share that link again in the chat, where all of the resources have been shared so far. So we'll upload this and we will also try to collect all of the links that have been shared in the chat up to this point and create a document that has that information too. Give us a couple of days to get that stuff up there, but we will make all of this available to you. I see Bailey typing MailChimp for sending out newsletters. Yes. We're slowing down here. This is an amazing list, y'all. I didn't know what to expect. I'm impressed. I'm really impressed with how everybody's thinking about stuff and doing things. I don't know why I'm surprised by that. You're all fantastic and do amazing work. I think, what do you think? You want to go ahead? We'll shut this down and move into the reflections, but Bailey will keep this open on her computer. So if you have more things that you want to share in the chat, more tools that you think of, let us know and we'll make sure that gets put it in the chat. We'll make sure it gets added to the list. But now I'm going to turn things over to my friend Aral Salters to bring us home with our reflection.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Jennifer. Yeah, thank you, everyone. I know this has been so illuminating. I've learned so much, and we really appreciate you sticking with us these 2 days. The information, the exchange, the communications, the inspiration has been really, really powerful. So appreciate that. We just wanted to take a few minutes to allow some kind of peer exchange and some sharing. I know we covered a lot of information, and so there's a lot to kind of process and digest and really metabolize as we go back to our projects and our programs. But we wanted to also, just kind of facilitate the opportunity to talk a little bit about any key aspects. We have some of our presenters are still here. We know we covered a lot, and kind of bringing it back full circle to what Amy Jean opened with. There's a lot of resources in Tribal Brownfields, a lot of different grants, a lot of different forms and styles and structures with respect to technical assistance. But we just wanted to hear from you all in terms of what you learned, what you feel inspired to do, what kind of questions you still have, what kind of, I guess, thinking about the grants that are available and the grants you already have and things you might be considering in the future. We just wanted to hear from you and just kind of open that up, the virtual floor, to kind of talk about those things, things for us to kind of follow up on and things that we might focus on with respect to our technical assistance. But this is a unique opportunity to just kind of share and listen and kind of talk about, what you've heard so far and, what really resonates with you. So that being said, just wanted to open that up. And thank you all for, just a fantastic, webinar series.
Yeah, and I would invite you to, all of you, if you feel moved to turn your camera on and actually talk, let's be in a room together now. We've been behind screens for these last 2 days. If you're willing to be in the room with us, that would be great. Oh, Emily, yay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's so good to see you all. It's going to kind of be a mini version of our talking circle.
Yeah.
Just what you guys are feeling, what you're experiencing, key thoughts, what you're motivated to do next.
Did you learn new things these last couple of days?
So I don't actually have one of these grants. Somebody told me to sign into this class. And so I got a lot of information on, maybe our tribe can sign up for one in the future. And so that was helpful.
Yeah, that's great, Emily. We would be happy to talk with you at any point about any of this, because as a lot of people mentioned, but particularly Jason, you know, there are a lot of different grants out there, but really understanding kind of what your priorities are, what your needs are, what your internal capacity is to manage and administer the grants can help determine what grants you actually apply for. Because really, it's really important to be successful with these, meaning what I mean by successful is the money doesn't get taken away from you for some reason.
Yeah.
Which is a big reason why we wanted to do this. Amy Jean mentioned that the Office of the Inspector General has received a lot of additional funding, so we are expecting more audits in the future. So, you know, all of this that's happening for the last couple of days is for part of that, to help make sure that those of you with grants are equipped to have, you know, indefensible records, no reason to, you know, I mean, you want to have successful audits, no reasons to lose your funding. But those of you like Emily that are considering applying for grants, understanding what the expectations are before you get in a pickle after you have the money, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Emily. And definitely appreciated what Jason has shared with respect to kind of the internal calculus that goes into deciding whether to pursue something and whether it's going to be a good fit, you know, for your program, whether to do something internally or to outsource something. Those are really key questions. I was also going to say, with respect to reflection, our friend and colleague Leslie Vanelli is doing some really detailed note taking, and so we're going to roll all of that up into kind of an overall summary of the event, and we'll have that posted as part of the information resources to go along with this event. So that'll be available just to kind of help guide you through some of the key themes and some of the big topics, key takeaways.
I think you shocked her a little bit there. She made a face.
Are you talking about me?
No, our Leslie.
Okay, I'm like, I didn't mean to make a face. If I made a face,
No, sorry, Emily. Sorry, Emily. I forget that not everybody can see exactly who I'm looking at and who I'm talking about.
Any lingering questions or key thoughts anyone has?
I just want
Hey,
to
Jen,
thank
go ahead.
for the
Oh,
days
sorry.
of presentation. It's been great to hear all the great information. It's definitely good to see all the tools that everybody uses. This will be my tribe's first year and first grant period, so we're excited definitely to step into Brownsfield. So definitely good to hear all that from you guys. My name is Robert Hughes. I'm the environmental director for Campo Banda Mission Indians out here in California.
Hey, Robert, thanks
Perfect. Thank you,
for
Robert.
being here. What grant did y'all get?
We got the assessment.
Awesome. Awesome. We are here to help you any way that we can. So
Oh yes, I'm really into networking and meeting new people and meeting the right people. So y'all look like a good group of people. So definitely reach out to some of y'all.
they are. Everyone here is wonderful. You want to put a plug in for the Knowledge Circle, Oral, while we on this note?
Yeah, absolutely. One of the real benefits, and it's really been such a profound opportunity for us, is to really facilitate conversations between you all. And so quarterly, we help set up and bring everyone together, convene folks to really just talk about some big picture issues and also be a support system for each other. And we'll share that information now that we have you all on our contact list. And then we also have monthly gatherings. And these are opportunities really kind of informally just to kind of talk about your program, how you're doing, things you like to focus on, questions. Because we have a lot of folks as part of this network that have been doing brownfields for a long time. And then we have a lot of folks that are new, that bring a lot of new energy and ideas and capabilities. And it's really that exchange that really makes this powerful. So we'll be reaching out and sharing that information, but we encourage everyone to participate, to tune in, even if you don't know, maybe you're just thinking about brownfields, but please, use that opportunity to kind of help gather your ideas and kind of build momentum. There's a lot of resources available, and we're all here to help you because we're all in this together. So encourage you to participate in that.
Yeah, thank you. And if you are not currently on our mailing list, or if you don't know if you're on our mailing list, you will be after this. So we will make sure that all of you get the connection information for, every month for the Knowledge Circle, either the chat or the gatherings, to come in and join us. Hannah is so wonderful at reminding me about the evaluations. She shared the link in the chat, and she's bringing the slide back up. There we go. We can leave this up for a second, but continue to talk. But as we mentioned, we have these really, really brief evaluations about this event. It's incredibly helpful to us because it does help us understand what worked, what didn't work, what else you all would like to see, and helps us continue to get funding from the EPA to be able to support you all. So please, it doesn't have to be this moment, but copy the link, sometime soon. Please take a few minutes to complete that evaluation, and we can continue the conversation now.
Yes, and thank you all. This is a really nice bookend. I know for many of us, we had, the National Brownfields Training Conference and TLEF, and we've had some regional events. And then this is just a really good opportunity to kind of reflect and share and kind of think about as we go back into, kind of our day-to-day activities, things we can focus on and feel inspired, and have this network of partners and peers to reach out to, so you don't feel alone, or, you're trying to reinvent the wheel or solve a problem by yourself. We're all, here for you. So, and special thanks to the organizing committee for this. In the middle of so many other things, I think this turned out really, really amazing, given just the level of activity and all the moving parts. And so thank you for everyone who contributed to this.
Yes, I agree. This whole experience completely exceeded my expectations, and the speakers, you are just wonderful. The audience, you were wonderful. We never know what kind of participation and involvement and discussion we'll get, and you all were so engaged, and really, really made this such a wonderful event for us, and hopefully you feel similarly. So Canva training, huh? We need to do some Canva training, apparently. What else? What are there other, we just did at a workshop. Oh, Amy Jean, what is Canva? Canva is, I don't know how I would describe it, but it's like a graphic. It's essentially like a graphic design kind of platform. It's web-based. It's free. There's a free version, there's a subscription version, but you can make social media posts, you can make basic graphics, you can do newsletters, you can do documents, you can do PowerPoint presentations. There's a whole bunch of templates available. There are, all kinds of ways that you can customize and modify things, add your own branding. Probably a lot of the stuff that you see floating around there on social media is made in Canva. And again, it's one of those tools that's so great because it is free. Are there other, especially after everything that we sat through the last couple of days, are there other types of, kind of deeper dives into any topics that you think would be helpful?
I've got a suggestion for future trainings, and that's along the lines of procurement and writing RFPs and RFQs and contracting, hiring qualified environmental professionals and what they can do. All along those lines, I think would be helpful.
Guess what, Jen? We're on that. So I'm glad to hear that echoed. We feel like that's really important. So it's good to hear from someone that is, you know, doing the work that they think that would be helpful. Planning cleanups, I see. Redevelopment, oh goodness, yes. Now keep in mind, we're a small team, so it may take us a while to get to all of these topics, but we've got you. So Sarah, specifically finding the funding and the resources to do the redevelopment. Oh, and demolition. Don't get me started on demolition. I do not understand why there is not more readily available demolition funding, since that is so often a piece of a lot of what has to happen in brownfields. Sorry, Sarah, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Oh, no worries. I was just going to say, yeah, really funding kind of seems a big hurdle.
Yeah, it's really
And,
weird how, oh, sorry, cut you off.
well, I was going to just mention about demo. I don't want any EPA people close your ears, but I will say there are certain exemptions because I was able to demo a building through TRP, and it was because it was so contaminated with hazardous building materials that there was no way at all to save it without tearing it all down. So there are certain exemptions that EPA can make for the TRP to be able to fund some demo stuff.
Yes, that is correct. And similar with the cleanup grant, but again, it is not a guarantee. It has to, there's a lot of things that have to fall into place. So yes, talk to your project officer, as Terry says. And some states, I know that it can be, tribal nations don't always want to work with states, but some states do have funding for demolition. So, checking in with your state, or check with us and we can check with your state. There might be some opportunities there too. Richard.
I just wanted to point out that I always found it funny that every, project officer ever will tell you it is not a cleanup program. You can't just stop at cleanup. You have to do like the visioning and then the reuse. But then there's no money for demo, and there's no money for building, and there's no money for reuse. And then Alaska makes it even harder when I think we've got like one program we can kind of apply to, because currently all Alaska Native villages and tribes are written out at the statute level. We can't apply for MARC grants unless we go through a really convoluted process of intertribal consortium or other project partners, which personally I think infringes on tribal sovereignty. But I did hear that might be changing. I think it was Lisa Griswold told me that if they do put through, if Congress gets its act together and approves everything, that we might actually have access to MARC grants, which is exciting.
That is exciting.
Anyway, sorry, that's just a whole bunch of Alaska specific blah.
It's not blah. Alaska is a unique and wild situation. I like a challenge, and Alaska, you give me a lot of challenges. All right. Aral is sharing in the chat some of the key takeaways from the day. And again, as a reminder, Haley shared in the chat, or Hannah shared in the chat, the link for the evaluation. Please take the evaluation.
Jennifer?
Yes, Amy Jean.
I would like to, oh yeah, my dog is right next to me and I'm feeding her carrots, so it's not me chomping away. I would like to know if there were any tribes, because I never mentioned it yesterday, that were interested in applying for the community-wide assessment grants for state and tribes. The $2 million grant, that's in addition to the regular, the regular assessment grants, the coalition grants, the cleanup grants, and the multipurpose grants that will all be offered this fall. But there was, I think we're up to, what were we up to, Jennifer? Is it like 10 tribes
10
that have them?
or 11. I can't remember now.
Okay. Yeah, because I
and we
think
do have a CWAG Street, at least one CWAG Street grantee here on this call right now.
Well, that is great. And I am encouraging tribes to apply for that. And my tribe that did it, that I work with, they only came in for 1.3 million because we just weren't sure what they were going to do with the money. And they just felt, 1.3 million is good. That's what they're coming in for. Well, they have been assessing sites all over the state of Maine. They've been stepping in for communities that don't have assessment grants, that hadn't written one in a couple of years. They're going all over doing assessment work. They're assessing sites that are 77,000 acres. They're doing great things with this grant. And I wish they had come in for the $2 million. So, I just want to encourage tribes to come in for it. There's a lot of tribes that have it. And, you could reach out to Jennifer and to get successful applications to help you write it, see what it's written, see what it looks like. And, we think that with EPA, oh, my doggy wants more carrots, that's potentially a grant that's going to continue, that it's
good. Not just Bill.
Started with Bill, but it's not just a Bill thing. And we're hoping that that continues. So the more tribes that come in for that, the better. And it's $2 million. It's a lot of funding. So there's my plug for that.
Yeah, and we can talk about that real quick. Robert, yes, we'll talk about it here real quick, but because I don't want to forget, can you send us an email? I'll put it in the chat, tribal-tab@ksu.org. And we can get you some information. We can set up a time to talk. We can, let you see some example applications of this. But for those of you that aren't familiar, the CWAG Street, as Amy Jean mentioned, it is only available to states and tribes. It's a community-wide assessment grant, so it's one of the competitive ones, and you can use that funding for phase 1s, phase 2s, cleanup planning, not cleanup, but cleanup planning, community engagement, a lot of activities, and it's 5 years, Amy, or 3 years?
It's more than 3. It might be 4.
Or somewhere between 3 and 5, but it's multiple years.
Yep.
And especially now that, as we were talking about earlier, that the bill or the IIJA funding is going to end, the competitive assessment grants, particularly the CWAG Street, these can be a good way for you to supplement your TRP funding and keep your dollar amount up at, kind of a high level where you've been. So then you can save your 128A funding for not assessments. You can use your competitive grants to do the assessments, and you can save your 128A funding for a lot of other things. So just a little strategy to think about.
And I've been trying to talk Jen Satchel into coming in for it. Since she already has 4 grants, what's a 5th? It's only 2. Yeah, what's one more? Since she's so organized with her binder, she could easily get it. But it's a big push. I review them, and they're also reviewed in their own little bubble. The CWAG Street grants are reviewed together with all the other CWAG Street grants. They're not reviewed with the regular assessment grants or the coalition grants. They're their own little bubble of, they're reviewed in their own little bubble.
Yeah, that's a good important piece of information. And we are, for those of you that are current CWAG Street grantees or are thinking about hopefully becoming a grantee, we are planning to begin like a peer group that is just made up of the tribal CWAG street grantees. Hopefully this next quarter we'll start to plan that and either get started next quarter or early in 2026. But that'll be a space for, you know, the tribal CWAG street grantees to come together and kind of help each other out, share resources. We've got, you know, kind of multiple generations of these grantees in process right now. So as I mentioned yesterday, we love the peer learning thing. So here's, you know, this will be another opportunity for everyone to learn and share with each other. Amy Jean, we had a request to see your dog.
Oh, you know what? I was just thinking I would pick her up. She is so. Okay, wait a minute. Here we go.
That sweet face. She
Isn't
looks
she
thrilled.
cute? I rescued her from Puerto Rico when I was there doing work for Hurricane Maria. Here we go, baby girl.
That sweet face.
Isn't she freaking adorable? Oh my
Yes.
God. I'm working from home today, which is unheard of. And she's loving it. And I just love having her here. And
look at the way she's cuddling up with you. Oh my gosh. Dogs are the best.
Baby girl. And she doesn't I don't speak Spanish, so I don't know if she knows Spanish. But she's from Puerto Rico. You know, baby girl.
Oh yeah, Kayla, my dog also loved carrots. Loved carrots. And when he was teething, I got him as a puppy. Frozen carrots, those would keep him busy. His little baby raptor pointy teeth. The frozen carrots would keep him busy for a long time. But back to grant management. What else? Anything else? Anything else we need to talk about? Anything anyone else wants to share? We'll stay here as long as people stay here. So if you're waiting for us to cut it off, I don't, you know, we might be waiting a while.
Well, I'm gonna get going, but thank you all. This has been a really great workshop.
Thank you, Kayla. It's so good to see you.
Yeah, you guys too. Bye.
See you soon. Bye. Yeah. If there's nothing more, we can wrap it up. And it's not 4 o'clock yet Central Time, so we can let you have, you know, good part of your afternoon back. As always, you know, reach out to us if you are laying in bed tonight and can't fall asleep because your brain is just like swimming with questions about grants and grant management. Send us an email and we will get you answers. And thank you so much for all of your involvement and participation and making this be such a wonderful event. I really appreciate all of you. Aral, would you like to close us out?
No, I just wanted to say thank you. Everyone be well, and we will see you soon. Amazing group.
Thank you all. Everybody enjoy New American Day.
Thanks, Robert. We look forward to talking to you.
All righty.
Have a good one, everybody. See ya.
Thank you. Take care.
Bye, Mary Rose.
Bye all.
Hey, Kermit.
Take care,
See you later.
Kermit. Good to see you.